we are today going to be working on this dev chatter bot. It is a Twitch bot, and we are also going to be working on the TwitchLib library, which is a library that we use for connecting to the Twitch API. Twitch actually has a few APIs, and the library actually has access to multiples of those APIs. We're going to take a look at that today. When we were using it back on Monday, I think, we dug into some of the code on GitHub. It's an open source project, and we noticed a few issues in some constructors. And so we said back on Monday that we were going to take a look at that today and see what we could do on that. So that's part of the plan for today, and the other plan is to just work on our Twitch bot. Now, I mentioned that this is a console application. For those of you that are new here, the reason we did a console application is because we're not building the front-end interface to it right now, and console application is the easiest thing to just run. So this requires no anything because we aren't building the user interface yet, because we haven't decided where we want this to live. And that's going to depend somewhat on which feature set we go for, because I see two main routes that we could go on this. If we go the route where we do a bunch of bot-style games, so for anybody that uses Twitch regularly, you're used to the idea that your bot is going to do things like playing games based on points, so they often have gambling systems, or they have other mini-games where like you can compete with other people on things. And so if we go that route, it's most likely that we're going to run these as local applications, and thus we're going to want to do maybe a WPF app or a Windows application or something like that. Obviously, that's not ideal for being cross-platform. Hey, aspiring DevOps guru. So we're still looking at our Twitch bot today, which I was mentioning here. The next thing is if we want it to live out on the web somewhere, say Azure, that's one possibility. If we do that, I'm going to pull in some guests to help us do that. There are a couple of guys that I know that do some pretty regular streaming and videos on Azure, and so they would be good candidates to help us migrate there. Now, if we go the Azure route, likely what we'll be doing is... so there are two possible directions for this bot. We may do both. We may do one, we may do the other. But if we go that direction, it's more likely we're going to do an interesting achievement style setup. So one of the possible goals is to essentially build in achievements. So things like, hey, you've been following for so long, or you've shown up to 10 streams, or you've spoken at this number, and trigger achievements based on that that'll pop up on the screen. So if we go that route, we're probably going to build a web interface on this. Now, whether that's the only piece, who knows? So that's why we're running as a console application right now, is because at some point I want to do a vote and have people decide which direction we want to go with this. But that's what we're doing today. So .NET Core all the way. And I also mentioned that earlier in the week on Monday, we were digging into TwitchLib because we had noticed a couple of issues, specifically with its... there was some weirdness in some of the constructors. And we said, hey, let's plan on this weekend. We'll take a look at TwitchLib again and see if there's something that we could fix up in that and send back in a pull request. I did hear from someone this morning that that there are improvements coming into TwitchLib, which doesn't surprise me. So there's an update to the NuGet package that's being sent out. So TwitchLib is getting active development, which is important since Twitch is getting active development. For those of you that don't know, they have a new API that's out. It's the Helix API. So that is relevant to us because we're building this bot. And then the other interesting piece of information about updates to Twitch is, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it should be pretty obvious. They added in the concept of rooms to Twitch. So we no longer have just that one channel that you guys can all see up there. I assume the reason that they added rooms is because most Twitch channels that at least I'm a part of have a separate Discord group that they use. And I think Twitch is trying to keep people on their own platform instead of losing their people to Discord when the stream is not live. So I think they're hoping to get people to continue chatting in there. I don't run the Twitch desktop app, but my assumption is that that's really where the rooms are going to be significant. So we'll have to figure that out, because I'm betting we're going to want the bot in there so people can play games in the rooms. So we'll take a look at that at some point down the road. So for now, let's go ahead and jump into this. Anybody that was here before will notice a couple of things. So we'd had a lot of clutter in our program. I just yanked those out into a couple of startup static methods just to get that clutter out of here. But, well, we don't need that. Either way, none of that information's really there, and that's why I moved it. So we pulled out the configuration, and we pulled out the setup bot. So essentially, those are just a couple of startup methods that do some basic initialization for us. We didn't put anything like an IOC container in here because we're still in a pretty simple stage, and we don't have a lot that we need to put in there. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but go ahead and shout out if you ever have questions about why we're doing anything, because we're sort of just building this as we go. So I've generally tried to make good code. My plan, whenever I'm working on anything, like my motto is leave code better than you found it. So I might create a little bit of clutter when I make new code, but whenever I'm going in and modifying something, I like to make at least a small improvement before I leave it. So if you notice anything that's weird that needs improving, just shout it out and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so the other piece that I wanted to talk about was, before we jumped over to TwitchLib, for anybody that was here, just so I can catch you guys up, because I do know that some of our regulars are in the chat room. So on Friday, we added a subscriber handler, but I also added a follower handler. So we've got those pieces in there, and I wanted to get those set up so that we just had them. So we added that one. So what's interesting is, and I do want to mention this, and I want to take a look at how this is set up in the TwitchLib project, but the subscriber handler, I have connected to the Twitch chat client, and the follower handler I have connected to the service. So I'm thinking that we're going to want to have everything running through the service, because I think that makes more sense, but we'll see. I know there are some pieces that are going to need to connect to the Twitch chat client, so we'll take a look. There are changes I want to make to the code, and we'll take a look at those when we get there. So for now, let me go ahead and open up the TwitchLib project, which I did pull down so that we could take a look at that today. Dev chatter, on stream, TwitchLib. Did I not pull those down? Maybe I didn't pull those down. I thought I did. So what I am going to do is clone some repositories off of GitHub, because I know that I at least forked them. So that is a terrible local path thing. Why would you ever think that was where I wanted to put these? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and clone these real quickly. For those of you guys that I guess might care for any reason, I am running the GitHub desktop, mainly because I can have a separate instance of this and keep all of these repositories separate, specifically for dev chatter, because I'm actually not using a VM that is specific to dev chatter for this. So why? I don't know. So I think the only ones that I'm going to need today are the API for TwitchLib, as well as the main TwitchLib project. But I'm going to pull in client and pub sub anyway, just in case we need them, while I'm cloning other projects. So TwitchLib's broken into a few different projects. I'm going to open those up, and we'll take a look at them. So how's everybody's Saturday going? Pretty well, I hope. It's early afternoon here. I know we do get some people in both Europe and the United States, so morning for some, afternoon for others. Okay. So the main project, TwitchLib, I believe is set up with some sub-repos specifically for the API, the client, and PubSub, and that's what these separate projects are. So they're individual solutions and repositories for each one of these, as well as the main project, which references all three of the underlying projects. So I think the ones we were interested in are specifically the constructors of some of these do a whole bunch of stuff, as I remember. I think the client did a little bit of craziness, if it's still the same way. And it's really just standard clutter that all developers get in their code. I'm not trying to be critical of anything that they did. They actually have a very nice client that they use here. Okay, so right now they're passing in this, and they broke out the Initialize, which actually, now that I think about it, is a change since the NuGet package we're using. So that alone is significant, because what that means is that our Twitch client no longer has anything happening in the constructor, which is really nice. So we actually have that problem in ours. Right now we do have some constructors that do a little bit of work. Hey, welcome, Mr. Magoo. Thank you for following. So that's actually a nice improvement. The other thing I like that I noticed that's different here is that they've broken out Initialize, and that's actually the one that does a little bit of work. And so what's nice about that is you can create the object, and someone can watch for exceptions on your Initialize method instead of watching for exceptions on a constructor. I don't know about you guys, but most of the time I don't expect constructors to throw in exceptions. So it is much nicer when it's a method doing it. So the couple of things I notice here, we did talk about the fact that the Twitch API uses WebSockets. We mentioned that at the beginning of the stream. So they are connecting using, in our case, we don't pass the host and port, obviously, because, why would we send those in? The defaults are going to work. We're not trying to change up what Twitch host and port we're connected to. I think the only reason you'd change your port is if you were getting the main Twitch port blocked for whatever reason and needed to connect to it in a different way. So other things that are relevant that we might just want to peek in at. So we do sending of messages into channels, and we actually use this one because we've already passed in which channel we're sending it to. And this obviously is just going to call into the other ones, given that we're only connecting to the one channel at the moment. And so, just wondering how it sends it. See? It'll queue it up if we are throttled. Let's see where this goes. Okay. It is literally just sending that over that. Cool. Alright. So the other thing that we wanted to look at is over here there is a follower service. So I wanted to take a look at this one because all of our tools that are using TwitchLib are pretty much connecting to the follower service because we want to be able to report back information about followers. So I wanted to take a look at what this is doing and just see what's in here. So let's see. Okay, so one thing I should specify when you create this, you set up an interval in seconds that you want to use. Oh, it's actually on screen right here. So every 60 seconds, this thing is going to run and look to see if you've got any new followers. And if it does, it's going to let you know how many new followers and what their names are. The other thing that I do want to point out that's a little weird in here that you'll notice, right now, TwitchLib, depending on what type of credentials you give it, uses either of the two actually deprecated APIs. So I'm not sure what the plan is. If there is someone that works on TwitchLib in here already, I would love to know what that is.
What a lovely day!
Hey, welcome. Thanks for following. Ayemba? I apologize if I messed that up. I hope I got close at least. So you'll notice that there are two separate paths that it has here. It has the v3 and v5 APIs. And I'm going to pull up the, just so you guys can see it, the Twitch API, which is right here. So they have a new API that they've put out. So you'll notice they have this little helix symbol. See, it's funny. They say the new Twitch API, which kind of boggles my mind that they call it that because it has a name. They named it Helix. So I'm not sure why they did that. So anywhere you see it, you're going to see it as Helix, and that's why there's the little double helix symbol there. So if we take a look at...
Oh, what a day! What a lovely
Hey,
day!
welcome, Tenno Diablo. I think I pronounced that one right. What I was saying is that they have this new API, and if you take a look, they actually have... so what we're connecting to in TwitchLib, when we were just looking at that code, is it's connected to the v3 and v5 APIs, which is interesting because we can use them, but you'll notice that the v3 one has been deprecated for over a year. The v5 one has been deprecated for 6 months, and then at the end of this year, they're gonna straight up just get rid of the v3. So by the end of the year, everybody's got to stop using this one, and actually both of them. Everybody's got to be on Helix. So that's clearly not a problem because TwitchLib is already updating, and gonna switch to that. But I figured I'd point it out. So we are connected to the deprecated one, so that's totally fine. Not a big deal. If you're not using deprecated code, you're just not using enough code. Okay, so I figured I'd point that out because that's basically what it's doing here, is it checks to see which type of credentials you gave it. And if you don't give it a username, if you instead use the newer connection, it'll actually use the v5 one, which is what we want. And the other thing is, looks like it's just straight up swallowing that exception, which is interesting. Okay, so new followers, cache followers, active followers, looks found true, adds if they found them. Okay, pretty simple logic. And if it's 0, return. If not, add that, add them to the range, and then invoke an event based on this new information, passing in the new followers. So that all makes sense. We are currently wired into this event. So, hey, Garahorn, thanks for following. So that's the event that we're wired into, and we get this message when someone connects as a follower. The bot's not running, that's why it's not posting any messages about these people joining. I could run the bot, and it should chime in, I hope, and say that. I haven't actually tested that yet. As I said, I wired it up this morning right before we started, because a couple of people had asked me to, so I did. Let's jump back over to TwitchLib again, though. So that's how the follower service works. I do want to check in the API. I want to see where we have any try-catch blocks. Okay, so they do have a bunch of them. I'm just wondering if it's rethrowing them or anything like that. So, handle web exceptions case. Okay, so it's rethrowing here. And bad resource exception, not partnered, token expired. Okay, so they have some pretty good exceptions here. So I do like what TwitchLib's got here. They have some reasonable exceptions that we could separately catch on our side. So I do like that. I'm glad that they're wrapping up the underlying exceptions of like what the technical thing is that happened. because obviously the API is going to give them back something that's not quite as nice because it's just coming back from a string. So they're going to have to wrap that up and tell us, since this is .NET code, we can get a type and catch the specific one. So these are the exceptions that we should be listening for and be able to handle them. So that's nice. I don't know how many people here have done any connecting to Twitch, but that's kind of interesting. So I wanted to take a look at that. Not sure exactly what we're going to fix out of it, but either way, I'm going to jump back to the bot and see what else we can add in here. So let's talk a little bit about what we set up. So simple thing I want to add in here. I want to give you guys an example of what the bot does right now. So it responds to commands. So if you notice in chat, I typed in the word coins. So anybody that's actually watching this live can see that I typed in ! coins, and the bot responded coins, I think you mean points. So the reason it responds that way is we're actually running two bots. We have both our bot that we're building here, but we also have a Streamlabs chat bot, which is an old Ankh bot for anybody that has used Twitch for a while. They would know that name as well. So the Ankh bot responds to points and has sort of a game system that's going, and it's tracking how long you've been in chat and will respond back with that. So my bot told you, hey, no, you did the wrong command. And that's all it did right now. So it was a simple response. But we want to do more than just that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over and actually I should move this into the startup folder also. I'm going to add another fake command. But what I want to do now, so our initial one has just a basic response. And it just replies with a command. It replies with some text based on your having typed a command. But I want to allow there to be inputs to that so that we can have a selector and put in specific information based on our events. So I'm going to put that in here so you guys can see how that's going to work. But then that's going to change how we do our simple response messages. So we're going to figure that one out today. Very likely this is going to be using a selector using a lambda expression in C#, and if anything I just said is even slightly confusing, say that in chat, because if you don't know what I just said, I will gladly talk about it. And I should also mention here, shout out at any point if you don't know anything that I'm talking about or anything that you see on screen. I will gladly discuss any of that. There are no questions too small. We do have a lot of people in here that are not used to C#, that are not used to .NET, .NET Core, or just simply use an old version of one of those. So do not be worried about yelling out anything about what we're doing. So, okay. So the other thing I want to point out, because some of you might be looking at this and thinking it's a little bit weird, so this is just our fake data at the beginning that is just so that we can run the bot and just test it. Because we don't want to have a back-end database, because we want anybody that's going to grab this to just be able to run it. So you might be saying, well, hang on, you don't have a database? I swear you have a database. I have seen that you have Entity Framework installed. And I do have Entity Framework installed. So that's what this EF project is right here. So my EF project actually has a standard Entity Framework data context in it, and some tables that we store data in. And it also has some methods for accessing that data from Entity Framework. But what we don't have is an actual database. I mean, we kind of do. And I'll explain. We are using an in-memory database. So this is basically a trick that means every time we run this app, it creates a new database that's empty and has the structure that we need. So that's why at the beginning, I run my little fake data initialization and just shove in all of our data really fast. So that's all that's doing, and that basically makes it so anybody can just run this application. They don't need to have fancy stuff installed. You can just pull down this source code, run it, and it just works. So no database setup or anything like that. Okay, so we want to do some kind of a response that mentions a person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a shoutout response, which for anybody that is on Twitch regularly knows that when there's someone else in chat that's also a streamer, and you want to let everybody that's watching know, hey, this streamer's also pretty awesome, you should go check out their channel as well. It's a very nice thing among the Twitch community that people are willing to shout out each other and say, hey, yeah, you should check out so-and-so, they're really good. I think it's a really nice thing in the community. So what I'm going to do is set up one of these. So I'm going to say, hey, we here, we love, and then I want to put in some kind of a placeholder here. So I'm not sure how I'm going to set this up yet. So we love so-and-so, you should go check out their channel. And one of the cool things you can do, actually, is the Twitch API will actually tell you what the most recent game is that a streamer played. So we could say, for example, that, hey, they were previously doing whatever. Now, in this case, most of us developers are streaming as the game creative. So if you take a look, that's what I'm streaming as. I mean, it's not really... I wish there were even like a Visual Studio so you could pull out who the .NET people are pretty easily. But we don't have that, so... I would still... So we called this a simple response message where we just did the static one. I'm going to argue that this is still a simple response message, even if it has a parameter. So I mentioned that we wanted to have a filter in here. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to treat this like we have the code already there. And the reason I do this is I like to program from the perspective of the client using my software. So essentially, in order to make it so that the code I write is easy to use, I want to first try and use it the way that I want to use it, and then I can go write the back end onto it. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to say I want to grab X, and then where X is going to be a response message type, so when we get one of these, so I'm going to jump to where this was, because I want to see where we grabbed the command text. So in our command handler, we got a command received event args. So this is actually the type that I want to have received. Command received event args has a command word, but we want another property on it. We want the name of the person that used the command. Now, I'm not sure what this is going to be, so I'm just going to put username in here for now. Or actually, I'm going to say user display name. So we want to get the display name of the user that ran the command. So that means I want to go back to fake data, which I thought was going to be right up there, but I have too many windows open. Okay, so I want to come back here and I want to say user display name. So obviously there's no constructor of this that takes that, so we are going to add a parameter to this, and it doesn't know what to do with that one. So we're going to make that parameter optional. So parameter is now optional, so now both constructors, neither one should be complaining. Well, actually the other one's complaining because this is actually going to be a function of type command received event arguments and string. So what that means is that we want to, given a command received event args, return back a string. So we're going to call this selector. And I may allow us to have more than one selector. We'll see. This could get complicated. So, because I want to be able to have any given parameter in here and pass in whatever we want. So we may back this out. We'll take a look. Okay. So, This needs to get stored in a read-only field, which we did. And so now we want to say if selector is not null. Whoops. Man, I can't type today. So if selector is not null, then what we want to do is do a we want to use our event args to get the value. So this is selected value. And then, because we have that, that means that we should be able to do a string format on our other one. And yeah, I'm going to do a string format on it because I don't have a good way of doing it at runtime, I don't think. We might fix this up in a minute. I'm not 100% on how this is going to work. Okay, so we're gonna have it be static response. So we're either gonna send static response or we're gonna send back this one, and our value is actually text to send. And then that's our parameter. Whoops, not command text, selected value. Okay, so the goal here is we want to be able to, at runtime, insert in that value, so that's why we're doing the string format. So you may also have noticed in out here, we included the curly braces to be able to do a string format on this. So we'll see if that works. I am not sure if this is going to work, to be honest. That is kind of a quick little change there, but we'll see what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and run this bot again. We'll toss it on the screen, so we'll see if we get an error message out of this. Oh, I didn't actually... wait, this is going to send me. That's funny. I was foolish there. I meant to grab the parameters. And we didn't wire it up anyway, so this is going to pull back a null value. Yeah, okay, so it pulled back a null value, but it tried. And that is significant. And it didn't fail to do it. So that actually means that that's working. As written, we just didn't finish it. I don't want user display name. I want argument 0. So this is going to be a list of strings that is arguments. So this is who did the command, and this is the arguments that they passed in. And actually, I'm thinking instead of this one, we actually want to get the full user at some point. So for now, anybody's going to be able to use our shoutout command, and we're cool with that. Because the bot's usually not running anyway. I mean, heck, the bot's not even running right now. So in order to make that work, we need to look at where this value was set, which is right here. So we set up extension methods. Hey, Magnus, welcome. So we set up extension methods on our Twitch library's event arguments so that we could yank this data out and use it. So we are going to say arguments equals, and I'm sure they have arguments on here. Command arguments as list. Hey, perfect. Okay, so they actually already had it in the format that we were thinking we'd use. So apparently the guys that wrote TwitchLib were thinking the same thing I was, which it makes sense. So an argument in this case would be like, if I said dev chatter and awesome. So I typed a message into the chat. I typed in an exclamation point which says, "Hey bots, this is a command," and I put in SO as our command. So that's going to be what our command text is in this case. And then our arguments here are dev chatter and awesome. So that's what the bot will then receive. So what we put in here is the ability for it to respond given those values. So let's go ahead and take a look again at making this code work. Too many of these things open. All right, so we jumped back here. We're passing in argument 0, and we're going to shove it right in there. I think this will work the way we expect it to, but let's go ahead and find out. So I'm going to toss that on screen. So I'm going to type in the same thing again. So we're just going to say SO dev chatter, and it says, "Hey, we love dev chatter. You should go check out this channel." So I think that's actually pretty cool. I don't know who's in here right now, but there were some people that asked yesterday the question of why would you want to use a function that's kind of complicated? There might be easier ways of doing these things. And this is an example of using a selector in order to grab the argument, because at runtime, so at this point that I'm writing this, I don't actually have any of the item values from our event arguments. So this is a way of saying, hey, when you do get those event arguments, you're going to want to grab, when you do get the event args, you're going to want to grab the command arguments parameter off of it and grab the first one. So that's basically how we do that. So nice. I like that. So I am going to commit that because I think that is worthy of a commit right there. That little piece wires up adding a selector to our commands. So even though I called this a simple response message, it's slightly more than simple at this point. So I'm going to make a new branch, and we're going to call this improving commands. So for those of you that can't see it, I'm just setting that up over on the other screen in Git. Don't worry about it. All I'm doing is making a branch and doing a commit. So if arguments is null, we would run into a problem. Let's find out what happens. That is a great question. Maybe we blow up. Hey, we blow up. See? There you go. So, let me do that. Let's see if I just cheated my way into victory there. What? Still broken. Thanks, Janiscu. Okay, so we could do that. So what we can do to get away with this is just change it to .first or default. So if we question mark and then first or default, then I think it'll work. Hey, see, there you go. So it still sent the message and just didn't include the parameter now. So I appreciate you're also testing us there, Janiscu. That was nice. So I think that worked out pretty well there. Good call, good call. And you got me before I even committed it, so much appreciated. Okay. So I think that works out pretty nicely. And that sort of gives us a way to set up additional commands, because we want to be able to have people writing more commands than what we set up here. And actually, I'm getting really tired of just putting in the word active in there. So I might change that to be the default. And if you want to create something else, you need to set it up as a default, just because we're hard coding in this data right now. So I think that's a good command. Anybody else have any ideas for commands that we should put in here? That'd be good starting commands for the bot. You don't have to have ideas. So there's one that I like that's on another. There's another common one that a lot of bots have. It's called a lurk command. Lurking, for those of you that don't know, is a term for when you're just going to be sitting around. You're not going to be really engaged in the stream. You might have it on in the background. You might even be AFK. And it's just a way of saying, hey, by the way, guys, I'm here, but I'm not really doing much right now. So having a lurk command is a nice way to do that.
What a lovely day!
Hey, welcome RCNet. Thanks for following. So why don't we say, because the nice thing about the lurk command is that actually gets us the chance to pull the user as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So why don't we say, we'll start off with the initial person is just lurking here, but still thinks you're all awesome. Okay, so so-and-so is just lurking here, but still thinks you're all awesome. What do we want to call this? User? Maybe we do like user and then say user and then say question mark dot. Actually, if we have the user, we gotta have the user. User and then display name might be the way we do it. So the reason that I want to add a whole user object on here is I'm expecting that we're going to want to have something about the user of whether or not they're a subscriber, whether or not they're a follower, whether or not they're a moderator, so something more about them, and I am willing to bet that TwitchLib already has that built in on its user object. So we won't have to do any extra work for that. So let's go ahead, add this property on. Right now I'm going to leave it as an object because I haven't created the class for this. So we're going to call this a user. And I'm not sure if we want to have that as a user. Maybe a chatter? Chatter. Chat user? Chat user. Okay. The only thing that we really want on here right now, because it's the only thing we're using, is a display name. Where is this? This is inside of events. We don't want this in events. So I'm going to go ahead and get this into its own file, and I am going to pull this up out of here. I still want it inside of core, but that just seems like a general model object. So I'll put it somewhere for now. I don't know what structure you guys think we should do for this, but I'm going to toss it inside of core model. It feels like it's a model item, so we'll see. Twitch have those badges now. It gives some other way to cheer those users like clippers and bit cheers. Yeah. So there's a couple of interesting things that they've been doing. They have both... hang on. Gotta close the app before I do that. So if you're on a Twitch Partners channel, so I mentioned that we're a Twitch affiliate, but on a Twitch Partners channel, they can actually customize the bits badge. So let me show you guys what those look like, because I don't think many people here have cheered, so I'm actually going to hop onto my other account and cheer myself. This is also me. So I cheered myself for 1 bit, so you guys should have seen a little thing pop up. So I just cheered myself there. And now what that does is something interesting. So now that I've cheered once, look at this badge. Nope, what, really? It's not going to show the badge? Maybe I have to turn it on. Edit appearance. Yeah, so since they added those, I'm going to actually turn that badge on. So this is the old badge. Okay, so anybody that's looking in the chat now should see that there is a little triangle inside of that. That's the original bits badge that Twitch used. So that is an indicator that that account has sent in bits before and also sent in sub 100. But now they display it slightly differently because there is a this concept of being the bits leader in a place. So this one is silver. So this new message here, that one's saying, oh, by the way, I have a silver badge now. So you'll notice that that badge changed inside the chat. If you're running the standard Twitch clients, you should see different badges for those because I did change which ones I was using. So that is just an indicator that that's the account that is in second place for cheering. So we're a recent affiliate, so it's not like many people have cheered. We just grabbed affiliate this week. And for those of you that are subscribed, I do want to mention that we do have our Twitch emotes made, and we're just waiting for Twitch to approve them, and then they will show up and be available to you. So now that we have the bot running, I'm going to go ahead and test this out a little bit. So we're going to do our SO. So we shout out dev chatter there. I'll probably add a link to that, make it a little easier. But then also, I want to test our other one, which is Lurk. And Lurk blew up. Nice. Alright, let's figure out what Lurk was trying to do here. So, on message, on data received, async, process, receive, callback. What were you doing? Object reference not set to an instance of an object on what thing? Line 37 in fake data? So, chat user didn't get set. Almost like I didn't set it. Because we said we would always have this. We always have this, guys. Why would I lie about something like that? That was a joke. We don't always have this. Okay, so let's go to where the arguments were set. And then let's go ahead and set up our chat user equal to a new chat user. And we're going to pass in our display name and set that equal to source.command one command would be emotes like what show channel emotes. Yes, that would be a good one. I could do that. The challenge with doing that one, Janiscu, is that I then have to make sure my bot is always a subscriber, which right now it actually isn't.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely
Hey,
day!
welcome. Thank you. Tobiax? I'm gonna totally butcher that one, but thank you for following. So display name, I'm gonna guess, is the user here. We'll see. But yeah, you're right, Janiscu. We should absolutely have a command that says what the emotes are, and we should also have one that is a static response one, like the first one, that tells people what we're currently working on. Now, I would like it if that pulled from somewhere else, so if we could make an external call to that, but I'm not going to put that one in today because we're not hosting anything anywhere with this yet. So additionally, we could do something like you set what our current project is using a command, and then once it's set, it can then repeat it back. So it could even store that in a database or something like that, at which point I might have to make the database permanent. So we'll see on that one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this again. And yeah, we're not careful with the bot yet. We aren't, because we're in the early development stages, I'm not catching the exceptions on this thing. I don't care if it crashes because it's just running locally. So I'm good with just rerunning it. So there we go. So it pulled off the name DevChatter, being who it was that said that. So if anybody else wants to type in lurk and see if you can get the bot to respond, that would be good. Should respond to all of you guys. So we'll see what it does. But that is a reasonable change, so I'm going to go ahead and... Hey, very nice. It is working for all of you guys. Good. And it shouldn't be rate limited, so you guys, as much as the chat will let you do that. Something like .NET streamers, what comes as a response from the database? Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let me commit this real quickly, guys. And so this is, we were adding a alert command, and we'll call this a sample alert command. So just so you guys are aware, all the code that we're working on is open source. It's out on GitHub. It's github.com/devchatter. And you know what I should do, because I just realized, is that would be a great thing to put in there. That would be a good command also. So let's go ahead and toss those few commands in really quickly into our fake data. So this is something that if someone else is going to grab this bot now, they're going to want to pull these out, because these are not the ones they want. So let's go ahead and make GitHub and just say, check out our GitHub repositories here. Okay. So github.com/devchatter, and then we'll put that one in there. And then as soon as I restart the bot, it should have that command. But since that's a simple command, I want to add one more. So what's something else we could link to here? Which we could respond back with what our current project is. So, yep, see, Janiscu, those commands are working perfectly. And now I don't link on my SO yet, so I kind of think that we should make this a link. So let's go ahead and do this. Twitch.tv/ and then their name. That's interesting that it couldn't figure out what I wanted to do with the link there inside of Visual Studio. It got a little confused in its text coloring. So that should work nicely. So the interesting thing that I want to do here, this argument that we passed in, we said first or default, but I also realize a problem. I want an extension method on that, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. So, shout out to streamer. What is picked randomly from a database if it's a streamer? Oh, that's actually a really good idea. If you just do a shout out and don't have a streamer mentioned, you could pick from a known set. I really like that suggestion, Janiscu. Let me commit this one really quickly, and then we'll do that. We'll look at that one, but there's one other one I want to do. One other thing I want to do first about the SO one, and you'll see in a second what I'm talking about. Adding GitHub link command. Okay, so here's what we've got. So let's go ahead and run this again. All right, so now that we have that, someone want to type in the GitHub one? So just do an exclamation point GitHub in chat, and we'll see if that link goes through. And here's what I wanted to show you. So while you do that one, I'm going to do a shout out to myself, but I'm going to do it correctly the first time. So, ooh, and I put my bang too close. So my exclamation point was too close there. I need to fix that. That was a mistake. Way to go, me. Also, I didn't want to put work into the console application. That's why we're just spinning an infinite loop once we're done, and we're just leaving it like this, is because I'm like, I want this app to run, but I don't want to build in like actual menuing and like things like that. I could just put a read line and have it wait for that. which I probably will do, but I really don't want to work on the command line because it's not, the end goal is not to be on the command line. So anyway, so if I do an SO for dev chatter, that bottom link should work. I'm going to go ahead and click it and just see what it does. And that works. So it got us to the right place. Thank you, SS Bob, for testing out our GitHub one. And looks like that one works as well and should link us to the correct place. It does. So that'll get you access to our repositories. So if you do want to take a look at these, you can go ahead and click that link and check them out. Feel free to send pull requests for any suggestions, anything you want to work on. It's pretty easy to wire up, and if you want to connect this to your own Twitch channel, you don't actually need to be a streamer. If you created a Twitch account, you have a Twitch stream enabled already. Your account exists, and you just have to connect the bot. So you could create a new account for it, or you could even just let it access your account. It's up to you. So it's pretty easy to connect. I don't really have any suggestions other than that, but it's a pretty nice way to get that thing going. Okay, so here's the thing that I wanted to show you. So the easy way to shout out someone to get their name right, because some names are complicated to do, is if you start, when you're typing in Twitch chat, you add in the @ symbol, it gives you auto-completion on someone's name. And so that's how you mention someone in Twitch chat, you know, like you would anywhere else. So here's the problem. Now when I do this, I have an @ symbol at the beginning, and I don't think that link works now. Nope, it doesn't work, because the @ symbol's there. So we need a way of removing an @ symbol. Now, because of the prevalence of an @ symbol being inside of an argument, I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to remove those optionally when you need to. So sometimes when a command is responding with someone's name, you might want it to mention them so that it's more obvious. So I don't want to just remove this from the arguments. So by that I mean we could go here to our arguments and say when we do this, yeah, I'm going to replace it. That's the idea. So, but what I wanted to say is we could do it when we're creating this arguments list and just say, hey, remove it. But I don't want to, because sometimes I want it to be there. So what I'm going to do instead is jump over to this and say on the parameter, I want to have a little extension method of something like no @ or something like that, that will automatically just remove the @ sign if one exists. So I'm going to put this inside of our core, inside of an extensions folder, and if you guys have another suggestion, shout it out, let me know. And hi, by the way, just came in. Hey, welcome. Yep, everyone's welcome. And shout out your ideas, seriously, like, we are all awesome people, developers. We create things. That is what we do. It makes us very cool people, because we love creating things. So I want to make a static string extension method, and I called it no @, and it is going to take in this string. I'll call it source for now. I create things that ignore the user. Yes. Welcome, Slayer Darth. That's good. Okay, so essentially what I want to do is I want to remove the first character if it's an @ sign only. So in your personal projects. Okay, so what do we want to do? Returns a new string which being specified position. Okay, so there's a handful of ways we could do this. We only create in languages we like, though. This is true. Although that's like, well, no, that's not true. Who am I kidding? I've created plenty of stuff in languages I don't like. we use the languages that make sense for us to use at the time. Okay, so I just realized we really should just write a test for this one, because this one is stupid simple. There's no reason not to. So I'm going to make... Apparently I clicked the wrong button. What? My keyboard shortcut's not working. Why is my keyboard shortcut not working? Well. Oh, no, there are no stupid questions here. That is actually a fantastic question, official Rossi there. That is actually an extension method, which I believe is an addition in C# 3, if I'm remembering my C# versions correctly. I do a lot of speaking on C#, specifically to do with versions and like what new features are, so I give talks around the region about that, and I've got courses and stuff like that, so I very much like the C# language. It's got a lot of great things. What this basically does is it adds a member, sort of. It adds... So, let me explain. So, I can't modify the string class in C#. Microsoft, I mean, I guess I technically could in .NET Core because it's open source, but I want to add a method to string so that what I can do is inside of here, display name is a string, and I want to be able to say dot and then my method name. So in order to do that, I can use an extension method. And the way that an extension method works is it's not really a method on that object, but .NET C# will let me treat it as if it were a method on there, so I can call it that way. And essentially, the left-hand side of that dot is what gets passed in as my string. So normally when you're using a member function, so a method in C#, this refers to the object you're on. And since we're inside of a static class and everything like that, there is no this. So the this keyword is used to tell it, I'm going to have this basically as my member. So my string source is my member. So that's sort of how it works. But you'll have this dot not at method in all your string variables in your... not exactly. So yeah, so I can use it from anywhere on any string that I want, Magnus. I can use it wherever I like. However, it only will even appear as an option inside of IntelliSense. Really, sort of, kind of. This is almost not true. But oh man, the amount of times that I have to lie to not actually get into all the details and specifics. So it'll mostly not show up as long as it shows up when you include this as a using. So basically, whenever you have that there, it will appear as an option. But I'm running enough extensions in Visual Studio that it's going to show it anyway. So anyway, I'm going to make a core folder. Inside of the core folder, I'm going to create another folder that we're going to call extensions. Inside of this, I'm going to make a class. We're going to call this class no at should. It always shows up if you... Yeah, so... and that's why I was kind of saying that I was lying a little bit, Magnus. You're right. Because I have ReSharper installed, I'm always going to have no at as an option. But here's the thing. It's going to actually show up slightly differently. So you can tell that it's going to require an extension in order to get it. Let me show you what it'll do. So you'll notice it's in here, and it says using extensions. So that tells me, oh, I can put that in there, but it's going to have to add a using statement in order to do it. So I know that that's an extension method that's going to come in to make that happen. So even the tools that do this make an adjustment so that I can tell I'm going to be using an extension method. So they are really good about that, which I really appreciate. Most of the tools that we use make it so that we can do these things without much trouble. So, okay. So let's make this dev chatter, and we're going to say string result equals that, and then I'm going to say assert equal, and we expect it to be dev chatter, and the actual result is going to be result. Okay, so this first test is going to be do nothing given Atlas given Atlas string. Okay, so that's our first test. Our second test, since this is so easy, I'm just going to jump to the next one. Remove at given, and I'm going to call this an added string. If you guys don't like those names, shout out, let me know. But I get what those are saying. And I am going to just make sure that no one writes this poorly. Do nothing given at elsewhere in string. Given, I'm going to change this to at prefixed string. And we're going to say if we give it dev at chatter, we're going to ignore that, and it should be dev at chatter. So let's see if those work at all. No. That didn't work at all. Actually, I'm kind of confused. Oh, dev chatter. Yeah, see, that's why I need to pull the variable out. You guys didn't catch that? What am I even pair programming for if you guys aren't even going to watch that? There we go. Okay. So it does not remove that because we didn't actually write this method yet. So no at did nothing. So here's why I did it the way I did it, is because someone could have come in here and just done this and said, hey, let's just replace the at symbol. Really? It's going to complain about an empty character literal? So this is going to fix one test and break the other test. Wow, it really doesn't like it. Okay. What is the empty character literal? Then, Mr. Complaint. Oh. Really? New character, old character, new character? You won't let me do it with that? Okay. I'll just do it this way then, because I know you'll let me do an empty string. Okay. So that fixed one and broke the other, which is fine. So, replace, you'll notice, doesn't have like a only do it within this range. So we don't actually want to do it that way. I just wanted to point out why we added that test. Anybody got a good suggestion for this one? First character is that, so, because we could do a starts with at symbol. If it does, so if it starts with that, then just do source and then do a substring of, you know, starting index at 1, or just return source. So we could do it this way, just substring chop it off. Anybody have another suggestion? There's got to be a better way to do it than that. And I'd love to hear what someone has for that one. Because that seems very, you know, C#2. We're not running C#2. So, used a simple ternary operator and chopped off the first item from the string. Huh. Well, okay. Oh, I could do a regex. Actually, I do love regexes, but no, regex is not the answer for this one. I could do, yeah. If someone types at user, you're correct. It is gonna fail. I'm not sure what we should do with that one though, because they typoed it at that point. But yeah, I guess we could remove at if we wanted to. So I mean that's a suggestion, Jalrum, which I'm sure I'm gonna mess everybody's name up, and I apologize when I eventually mess your name up because I will. Which I'm totally cool with. I apologize for doing it. If I do mess it up, let me know, and I will try to get it right the next time. And the reason I mention that, at least I'm used to it, is I will message in the chat with my other. This is my other account. So yeah, so that's the other thing, is this isn't a real name either. My other account, I pronounce that Brendonius, and that's Brendonius is actually where I am on Twitter most of the time as me. I do have a Dev Chatter Twitter account as well, and I also have both of those. So at least on Twitch, I use Brendonius as my gaming account. So I do occasionally stream on there. It's not very common. I do a lot more dev streaming than I do game streaming, but I separated the channels because I thought it made sense. Okay, so either way, our code should be working now. We've got a couple of tests around it. I'm not going to jump on the double @ removal just yet because that is, I think, less important because it's not going to come up as frequently. So I think it is going to be common for people to want to shout out and use @completion. So I know I do it all the time. So let's go ahead and try that. Oh, it didn't remove it. Whoops. Did I not leave that in there? Maybe I removed it. No @ display name dot no @ Oh. Oh man. You guys saw nothing. You saw nothing. Look away for a second. That didn't happen. Alright. Let's go ahead and run this. So one of the fun things, speaking of making stupid mistakes, and dev chatter. Okay, cool. So looks like those worked exactly as expected this time, now that I put it in the right place. So speaking of making mistakes, other things like that, we actually have some emotes that are getting added to our channel that subscribers will be able to use. The few emotes that are in there, I know I've mentioned, because we do have subscribers that are in here right now, I mentioned that we were getting some emotes made. We have one that is, our main one is a hype emote, so our tier 1 subscribers will get a hype emote, and it's just going to be a little guy holding up a sign that says hype, so it's for exciting stuff, cool stuff that we're going to be able to do. So if you see something neat, you can throw in a hype emote, it'll be fun. But the other two that we've got, which I would love it if we hit partner someday, because then we could actually have more emotes for the tier 1. So for now, in tier 2 and tier 3 we have a derp emote and a fail emote, which those all need to get approved by Twitch before you'll get to see them. But the derp and the fail emotes are basically just, hey, Brendan did something stupid, let's laugh. So, because it's all in fun. I mean, if you find a developer that says they don't make mistakes, then I either want to meet that developer because they're amazing, or I'm going to sit there and be like, you don't make any mistakes. Uh-huh, right? Yeah, sure. So can we extract the command strings to an enum? Command strings. We could. I guess I'm not sure why we would at this point, because I'm expecting this to be data rather than be hard-coded. So in the long run, I want these to be added through our interface. Does that make sense? So we don't have an interface for updating commands yet, but I do want to get to that point. And actually, I want to add eventually commands that are like admin commands. So essentially commands that can modify other commands. So that's the goal with those, is I'd like to make it so that we could do, hang on. Let's see, commands add foo. So I want to be able to do something like this, where we add in commands like this, and then we say something like commands edit foo, and then, you know, some kind of response like I pity the foo. Something like that. And so then someone that types in foo is going to get it to respond with I pity the foo. So I'd like to be able to set that up at some point. Now, if we do this, I'm going to set it up so that you have to be a mod of the channel in order to be able to run these. That way, you guys can't just hop in and modify data on my bot, because that's a little scary. But I like the idea of being able to modify them. And the other thing that I want to be able to do, that is the scary part. Now, here's the scary part. Here's the long run, like, pipe dream, sounds fun kind of thing. And I might have to restrict this so that only my account can do it, not even allow the mods to do it, because it is that scary. So you guys are all going to realize how completely insane I am here in a second. Oh, yeah, it could be I pity the bar. But anyway, I want to be able to pass in something like this. I want to be able to pass in C# code to the bot from the command in the chat room and modify the commands like that. Because I don't know about you guys, but I think it is really freaking neat. The level that C# has gotten to, where you can practically use it as a scripting language. I mean, not practically, you can use C# as a scripting language. Yes, I am, Magnus. That's why it hasn't been built yet. Because that needs to be like super restrictive in what you can do, and I'm kind of afraid to do it, but I want to get there at some point. Okay, so let me go ahead and commit this. And while I'm committing this, you guys can think of other things that we can add. Never do it. Oh, Magnus. You're just not brave enough. You're just not brave enough. I should get a security guy on here and have him tell me why I shouldn't do it. Which, I mean, I already know why I shouldn't do it, because I really shouldn't do it. That's part of the reason why I don't leave the bot running all the time either, is because, I mean, you guys could do things like shout out a random channel. By the way, I just closed the bot. Fixing the SO command. Yeah. Yes, exactly. See? You know, if you can already hack into my account, I've got other problems too. So... Alright, so... Cool. Yeah, you gotta love the evil laugh. I love evil laughs. I don't know if you guys do too, but evil laughs are my favorite. Okay, so hopefully you guys came up with what our next command is. So we have our coins command that responds back with that. We've got a GitHub one to tell you where our GitHub stuff is. We have a lurk. What else should we put in here, guys? We'll do the emotes one. Someone suggested doing emotes. We'll do that. Which actually, that's a simple one, so we're going to copy this one. So, emotes. These are our current emotes. They are... So, all of our emotes start with devcha, and then say something like that. So, we have devcha chipe, devcha derp, and devcha fail. Oh, a schedule's a good one. Thinking about the idea of a schedule one, I almost wonder if there's a nice way that we could pull when the next one is going to be. So instead of printing the whole schedule out there, I would wonder if we couldn't pull the next one. Either way, there's our emotes one, which obviously doesn't work because the emotes aren't there yet, but we can at least check to make sure it responds. So these are our current emotes. Hype, derp, fail. And it's really ironic that fail fails. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. So the widget, so I'm going to show the stream on stream, which is weird, but I'm going to do this so that you guys can see what he's talking about, because some of you might not be on the website. So if we toss this over here, and I apologize about having white background on here. this widget here, this Now Live widget, that'll show you when my stream is going to be. So if you are on the website, you can scroll down to this and take a look. So our streams are normally on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I actually had to miss a few like a week ago because I was sick and I couldn't really talk, so it was hard to, you know, obviously doing a stream wasn't going to work. But anyway, this is the stream we're currently doing. We started early today, which I mentioned at the beginning of the day that we were going to be starting early today. And the thing that I want to be able to do is pull this data and say, hey, yeah, we're going to do the next one. I think that's a cool idea. I'm not sure where this data lives or if we can access it. If we can, that'd be really neat. So, and I think it's safe for me to click these without showing you guys anything I shouldn't be showing you. Nothing like clicking around in the back end of a site live on stream. There's no way this could go wrong. So this is how this is set up. I basically just put these in and I tell it what time zone the times are that I entered. So when you guys navigate here, if you're not in my time zone, I'm in Eastern Standard Time in the United States, and as you know, tonight we're all shifting our to Daylight Savings Time here in the U.S. So I'll be switching to Eastern Daylight Time, but all of these times should update based on whatever time zone you're in. So you should see that. So that's the reason a lot of us use the Streamlabs schedule, is because it'll do that and show it for you in your time instead of mine, because you obviously don't want to see it in my time. That doesn't help you. So I have a time zone picked, and I assume when I switch to Daylight Savings Time that it's going to update accordingly and show the right thing. But what I don't know is where this data is going to come from. So I'm going to connect to my Streamlabs account, and I'm going to do that not live on the stream there, just because I don't know what's going to show up in that one. I'm slightly less brave. It should have the schedule as one of the extensions, and all it does is take me over to that. Okay. So I think the only way I could figure it out would be... Here, let's take a look. Let's see what it's doing. Crazy ideas. You're hilarious, Magnus. Yeah, that's not exactly what so I'm not going to open a web browser, but I might do an HTTP client and try to pull it like that. I'm assuming that this data is pulling in from an API of some kind, but I love your suggestion. It's hilarious, because it really is basically what I was talking about doing. So I'm going to toss this on here. Let's see, where did this data actually come from? So there's my value. I'm hoping this came in from something. Is this an iframe? This is an iframe. Extension. There it is. So this is what you guys would get to see. So I'm just looking at the same thing you guys get to see here. Because I could pull up the stream and yank it directly out of this thing, you know, HTTP client, the actual stream itself. But I would rather open up this iframe. So we're going to go ahead and copy that and go there. Stream not scheduled. Okay, so it's passing something into this. Let's try loading the one higher up, which that doesn't look like it's going to work at all. So what did it pass in then? Yeah, so allow scripts. Let's see. This. That was inside of this iframe, right? Yes. It's inside of this iframe. So I assume what's happening, and the reason why this is working, is I'm betting if I take a look at this script, it's looking at what page its parent is on, or something like that. Yeah, that was a bad idea. Twitch extensions min. That was dumb. Brendan, why did you do that? Where was it? I forget it was. Extension files, Twitch TV. Let's take a look. It's in there somewhere. Hey, it's me. Okay, we're looking for an extension. I apologize if I'm loud in this, guys, because I'm facing the mic. And I adjusted the volume not facing the mic. How am I not seeing this, guys? Am I just blind? Maybe I'm just blind. It should be like right there. Okay, well, either way, I'm going to give up on that one for now. I think it's going to be too hard to pull that schedule in from there. I mean, it's not really too hard. I could pull it in by just going there and screen scraping this thing, I think. But again, I don't want to do that because that seems way too brittle to make work. So let's see, what do we want to do next, guys? Where to? I am open to suggestions. I'm going to clean up the Twitch chat client at some point. It got uglier than I wanted it to be. Don't know if we're going to do that on stream, but I could if you guys really want me to. So we reply when people join there. Can you do moderation commands? You mean like banning and muting? Yeah, I can do a timeout command or something like that. I could also set them up not to be commands necessarily, like certain words get you banned. Like if you say a certain phrase, you get banned. That would be cool, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I'm gonna go ahead and wire that up because that is a nice way for you guys to actually see how some of this works. I was not going to use Java, but like Objective-C is awesome might be a phrase that, you know, gets you timed out. Actually, I'm teasing. I actually, first time I saw Objective-C, I looked at it and I said, this is probably the ugliest language I've ever seen. Of like legit languages, you know, like not counting the ones that are intentionally ugly. But Objective-C was just like, oh man. So the funny thing is, I then started using it for a while. Stockholm Syndrome kicked in, and I gotta tell you, Objective-C was actually really great. I mean, as soon as Stockholm Syndrome kicks in, it is quite nice. I find it hilarious that I still called these this. See? See? These method names are terrible. Get those. Actually, I need an S on the end of that. And this is get those. Okay. Oh, PHP's not that bad. I'm not saying it's pretty language, but it's not that bad. keep in mind all these things that, like, we criticize any language. All languages are good for something. You just gotta find the right use for them. Some of them are useful only in academic purposes. Okay, so get bannable phrases, auto mod phrases. Okay, so we'll do, I like auto mod phrases. Let me know what you guys think about that name. I'm not set on it, that's just kind of what I was thinking might be a decent name for those. Yeah. I mean, you guys can say that kind of stuff, but there are still a lot of PHP devs out there, so I can't fault it too much. Okay, so this isn't really messaging. This is like... So, I'm noticing our structure needs to change a little bit here. Yeah. Always a good idea to add the kappa emote, just so people know. Alright, so this is going to be a data item. So data item is basically, means that it's, here, I'll load it. Means it's going to have an ID and have a status within our system, so we can say whether it's active or not. So what do we actually want to have on this? This is the phrase, and for this I'm thinking that we want to have some kind of a moderation response. Whoops. Response message, and then this is mod action, and that might be an enum. What is this? I think that's partly because it was originally someone's helper libraries rather than a full-fledged language. I mean, yeah, that is part of the problem with PHP, is that it kind of developed organically. That's actually one of the reasons why I like C# so much. Is it's created in the style of a lot of other languages that came before it. It was not created as like this revolutionary idea. And when they created it, other languages had done a lot of the figuring stuff out, so it could be designed to be better. So when I compare C# and Java, I'm usually like, okay, yeah, Java, it's, you know, similar to C#, it's got some things, but C# was able to look at what Java was doing and be like, oh, they have these mistakes they ran into. We can fix those and get out ahead of some of them. So there were some nice bits to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and make mod action. You know, I don't know about even having a warning. Timeout, ban. Those will be our differences here. Slayered Earth, I don't write in C#, but I'd like to have some C# files on my machine so I can tell people I'm a CS student. Yep. C# is a good language, man. I do like it. There are a lot of neat things, and they've added some really great stuff to it. I'm a big fan of what they're doing with pattern matching. I mean, lambda expressions alone, which have been in here forever now, made huge strides for the language. Okay, so get automod phrases. We're going to go ahead and add those. So now they're getting added into the database. Let's see. So the phrase that we want to look for, what phrase will get you banned? I wonder. Or get you a timeout. I don't see. The funny thing is, I don't even want to put offensive words in here while I'm on stream. I don't even want to have them on the screen, so I don't actually want to do any legitimate things. And I think all the other modding, auto modding tools will get those. So I have a feeling if you type a racial slur in chat, which please don't, but I think it might auto mod you. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it, but that's how those auto modding things work. So we're gonna say. Java greater than C# being our phrase. Let's see, shouldn't it be automod phrase singular instead of plural since it's a list? You are correct. Good catch. I will fix that type, thank you. C# is an awesome language, but what makes it great is the .NET framework that comes with most of the stuff you'll need. Magnus, I agree, C# is an awesome language, and the framework really is what makes a lot of things possible. And that even extends down to so I don't know how many of you actually look at what is compiled when you compile C#, but the intermediate language that's created when you compile C# is used the same regardless of what you're using. So if you are a C# developer, a VB developer, or whatever, your code is going to compile down to the same IL. So what that means is that the .NET framework actually doesn't always work the same way, regardless of what you're on. And there are some examples of that, of things that are possible in .NET, but not possible in C#. So there's actually some cool examples of that I've seen for many years, a couple of things. So I might take an aside at some point and show that on stream so that you guys can know what I'm talking about. And let's see, and also you could be referring to like the framework libraries, which also have a lot of cool things in them. Why not have JSON dictionaries you can reference for bannable words? Slayer Darth, that is a very good point. We could have a set of bannable words that are just coming out of the dictionary. And that is probably a nice way to do it. So at that point, we could do, instead of automod phrase, we could instead have a bannable word, and just set it up that way. Which, yeah, we could just do it that way. So that worked pretty nicely. So, and really, instead of bannable word, I would have it be a bannable phrase in this case, because I don't want to actually have a bannable word. Someone's too likely to hit it, and I'm not likely to put in an actual bannable one. That's funny that I put string in that. I don't know if you guys know this, but when you're typing on stream, it's actually very hard to think and type and talk to you guys all at the same time. It's a little challenging. So Java greater than C# is a bannable phrase, which we're not going to just put it in here anymore. We need to figure out what we want to do with this. So actually that might not be the return value. Maybe you can have JSON dictionaries for different locales. Why don't I have JSON? Yeah, it would make sense to do that kind of thing. So actually, that might be diving in a little further than I want to get on this one just now. So I might stash this and jump to something else. Because actually, there's a cool thing I want to show you guys. Do I have an extra? I do. I have an extra Visual Studio up. So I'm going to go ahead and do a cool thing, because we talked about it. Yeah, exactly. I would like to have, well, so Magnus, what I'd like to have, if we were going to do that, so I'd like to have it set up like this. I almost want to say like level 1 words, you know, have that be a set of words, and then have like level 2 words where someone could choose, you know, what tier of offense they want to allow, and then also have like, you know, custom words. So you can choose which set you don't like. So level 1 could be things like, you know, racial slurs. I don't want those in my chat, you know, or like, you know, sexist content or something like that. But I think if we were going to go this route, we would want to probably connect to something else that does a lot of that work for us. Because having individual banned words, so like the custom piece that we're talking about, I think that makes sense because you might have something you don't want mentioned in your channel. So it's like, yeah, that's something that just bothers you. For example, I know people that don't like the word moist, and if you're one of those, I apologize for saying it. That's the only time I'm going to say it. But I do know people that don't like that word. Why they don't like it, I don't know. But hey, if someone doesn't like the word, I'm not going to say the word. Scratch. So I'm going to make a little application here. And I'm going to toss it on screen so you guys can see what it is. C# is not all.net. Dev Channel integration to Azure Cognitive Services would be cool. Yes, exactly, Fossils. Integrating into Cognitive Services would absolutely be a way of determining whether or not content was, I guess we'll say, offensive. I think that would be a great way of handling that. But I don't want to dive too heavily, at least for now, into moderation. So, but I did want to show you guys a cool thing. I don't know if this still works. This worked a long time ago. I'm going to make class 1, and I am going to give it a method. And in this method, I'm going to make it, let's see, it's going to be called foo. I want to do a cool thing here. Show you guys this for a second. So we're just going to do some cool stuff in C# really quickly. First phrase should be Visual Studio sucks. Yes, Magnus. Yes. If someone types Visual Studio sucks, we need to ban them, because clearly it doesn't. Occasionally it locks up, and we do wish it were better. But that's about it. So. Okay, so I made this method, so you guys are probably wondering what I'm doing. I made a class, I put a method on it. This is not a static class, this is not a static method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here, and I am going to make a new class 1 object, and I am going to call class1.foo, right? You guys have all seen code like this. If we come over here, you'll see it says hello. Okay. Code works as expected. Nothing crazy. You guys are all looking at me like, is he seriously going to do a Hello World program on here? And my answer to that is yes. So this is null. And I might have to do some trickery to even let me do this. Okay, so that compiles. Alright, now when I run it, oh man, it blew up, guys. Guys, look. It blew up, null reference exception. Oh, I never expected that. I've never seen a null reference exception. What does that mean? Hang on a second while I go do some things. So you guys probably all agree with me that I could load up the assembly for this and just run it. So, and that would work fine. So I'm going to go ahead and open up PowerShell, so you guys can all see this. This is where we are, and I'm going to go ahead and just run that executable, and it crashes, right? Right, we get our null reference exception. No one's surprised by this. But I want to do something. Let me see if I still have this on my desktop. Yes, that's right. I am such a nerd that I actually keep ILDASM on my desktop. Which should disturb everyone. If you don't know what ILDASM is, it's... So I just read it as ILDASM, and I'll toss it on screen for a second so you guys can see it. I say ILDASM, it's the... Here's why I call it that. Its name is ILDASM. It's the IL disassembler, so DASM, D-A-S-M. this is our program. This is all the bits that are in it. So I pointed this directly at that executable and it shows me what's in that, which is kind of cool. If I double click on that, you can actually see the intermediate language that it puts in here. So this is our main method. So this is what the C# is actually becoming, because C# obviously is not executable. What happens when you compile C# is it creates this, and then this code is actually what is run, and this is what's executed. So this should look a lot like assembly language, because that's basically what it is, but it isn't. So in here we did a couple of things. So we create this new object, we call the constructor method, right? That all makes sense. And then on that same object we call foo. Down here we call foo again on the object that we loaded. So you'll notice here we loaded 0, we load 1 here, and then we call this. Now the problem is that where was I going with this? That our code doesn't actually have any dependencies, so our foo method should be able to work. Because if I were to make this static, right, everybody agrees that I could just, you know, call that, right, and it's fine. There wasn't any reason why I couldn't call this method. It should be safe. Now I think I did a blog post on this a long time ago. Let me see if I did. Did I? Maybe I didn't. I'm just Googling for my own blog, because we all do that. I thought I had. So basically, what I was looking to do, and I thought I could, is just use this to open up that file and show you guys what I wanted to change about it. Can I not modify it at all? I don't remember how to do it. It's been so long since I've done this. .NET Reflector, no. ILDASM. Yes. ILDASM, it should do it. Maybe I just have to actually call it with that. Maybe I can't just load it. Maybe the GUI can't do it. That could be the problem. The GUI might not be able to do it. It's been so long since I've done this. I don't know if any of you guys remember. ILDASM options, okay. Well, I'm not going to do it either way, because I'd have to go jump and do that, and I don't remember exactly, so I'll do it some other time. But the cool thing is, this code, as written, whoops, switching this back to not be static, this actually runs as long as you change how it calls the method, because there is actually not a restriction in the intermediate language. So in .NET itself, it will not prevent you from calling a method on a null object. What ends up being the problem is if it accesses any local resources. So if I had a property on here, if it tries to access anything else that really did need to be on the instance and not just static, it would work. So what that means is as long as a method could have been static, even if it's not static, .NET actually will let you run it. It's just C# doesn't. So I've always thought that was a cool thing, that the .NET framework actually has more functionality than C# does. So I've always thought that was really cool. I'm going to drop that for now because you guys are right. We should, if we're going to do moderation on that, we're going to want to do it differently. So I'm actually going to drop the auto mod stuff we were doing and just back that out. And yeah, I'm not going to do it out of GitHub, but that should work fine. Okay, let's go ahead and build, run this again. Quick question. Would you want to give a quick tutorial about decorators? As I am here anyway, I can look it up on YouTube, but just wanted to ask you. By decorators, do you mean the decorator pattern, or what are you specifically looking to find out about there, Flozik? So I am actually planning on doing some demonstration of the decorator pattern on here. And I will show you what I mean by starting to build it, because it is actually something I wanted to do anyway in here. I'm going to call this Fixing Up Fake Data Names. I'm going to commit this, and I'm going to push this up and send in a pull request for it now. Because we were improving commands, but I want to take a detour and look at something else in our bot, if that works with you guys. And I think that'll be good. So, Flozik, which I'm assuming is how you say that, is that what you wanted to look at, or what did you want to see? Because I would be glad to answer questions or show you whatever it is you wanted to look at. Decorator pattern, absolutely. We are already planning on having that in here, so I will do that now. What I will do is create a new branch. So I am going to make the branch decorator pattern. So what we're going to do on this branch then is, yep, yes to all. We are going to jump over into the repository. So I am going to set up the repository using the decorator pattern. So this has actually been on our plan for a while. And here's what I want to do. There are two things that we want to handle with the decorator pattern with this. So the repository, I love the way it works, but there's a couple of things I want to do. I want to add logging. And I also want to add caching. So I'm going to create a folder for caching. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new class in here and call this the cached repository. And the cached repository is going to be an iRepository. And this is actually where we get into the decorator pattern. As the first thing I'm going to do when I set this up is I am going to create a constructor. And in this constructor, I'm going to take in another iRepository. Now, I can make a separate interface to be cautious about this and make sure that I get the right one and we don't have a looping thing. And there's some fancy ways you need to do the setup for this if you're using an IOC container, which I can also talk about, but we're not using one, so I'm probably not going to do it in here. But there's a little bit of magic that you want to do. And so this repository is essentially our internal one. So already we've basically implemented the decorator pattern already. I mean, we haven't, but we have. We have the main piece here. So all I need to do at each point is just say the exact same thing that each method is. I just need to return and call through to my internal repository at each step. So I'm just going to copy pasta this all the way down and correct the names as we go. So we did single, now we need to do list, now we need to do create, and this passes in data item instead of spec, and then update, and again passing in data item instead of spec, and then another create, and passing in our data item list. So this one returns void, so I'm not going to do a return on it. Yes, pasta, we love pasta, and bacon. I do actually enjoy bacon in my pasta. So, okay, so you might be looking at this and be like, okay, yes, so Flowzeek, the decorator pattern does use dependency injection. So we inject in our dependency. So the idea is we don't know what our, we don't really care where the data is really coming from. This is our internal repository, which actually I could call it internal repository, but I don't see the point. It's the only one. So it lets us do that. So we essentially just hand that off and say, hey, yeah, you're going to be the one that does this work. The next thing that we want to do, because we haven't actually put any caching on this yet, is we want to take in, and I usually call it an iCache layer or something like that, or an iCache provider or something like that. So whatever name you like, go ahead and use it. And so remember that this is the cached repository. So this cares about caching, but doesn't know anything about data access. This doesn't know what our database is like. It knows nothing about that. So that's sort of how the decorator pattern works, is it gives us layers. So with each layer knowing about a certain aspect that the other layers don't have to worry about. So our cache layer, I'm going to go ahead and put right here at this same level. And why I have an interface for this, I am actually not sure. I don't know that I need to have an interface for it versus having an actual class, but hey, that's what I did. So I'm going to do the simple thing first. But we're going to want to get more advanced in the long run. So what I'm going to do is just say we're going to do a try get from this maybe. And I'm going to say spec.cache key. So these concepts don't exist. So while we're doing this, we're actually getting to see how we're going to add the caching in. So this is actually a very cool one. So we're going to try to get it, and let's see. How do we want to do this? I'm going to pull this out of the if for now and figure this out, because I don't necessarily want to. We could just pull it, at which point we just get a T. So we'll get the T out, and we say if item equals null, then we're going to pull it out of the repo. So hilariously, I've written these like so many times. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to say get it, and if we did not find it, we're going to pull it from the internal. And once we've done that, we're going to say cache layer and then insert. So normally when I do this, Yeah, exactly. I'm adding it to the cache after I grab it from internal, Magnus. That's quite a hefty stream delay you've got there right now. So I inserted into this, but oh, you mean like after I try to get it from internal? Yeah. So actually, what I want to do is I want to make our try get do the insert if it fails. So, and I'll show you that in a second. So we're going to modify to that. So let me set this up first, and then we'll see how that works. So I need to create these methods. None of them exist yet. So the first thing is that I want to create a cache key. This is going to be a string, and it's going to be a getter. And actually, it's going to not be, there is not going to be a set. And we're going to actually flesh out our getter. Man, these tools just tried to help me so much here. Thanks. Thanks, guys. It was so helpful. Yeah, we're just going to do this. So, expression bodied property. That is a good question. We want to put in a couple of things here. So the first thing is I want to get T, T type of T, and then I want to say get me the name of the T that we're pulling, and then now here's where it gets weird, is I want to actually write out the lambda expression for the criteria. Get lambda expression as string. Okay, so I know this is possible because I've done it before. So we're gonna ask Stack Overflow for some help here. Yeah, see, I want the expression tree. I have an expression toString. Expression tree. Yeah. Expression.toString. Will that work? I don't think that gets us the whole thing, but that'll get us our starting point. So, let's see what that gets us. I'm a little scared to see what that does, to be honest. Huh. Oh, right, because it's on the interface. Wow, that was dumb of me. Okay. That's fine, that's fine. Yeah, I can't implement in the interface. You know, I'm about to be able to. In C# 8, they're gonna let me do that, Magnus. That is actually one of the features they're planning on putting in. They will let me get away with that. So we're just gonna pretend that I thought I was working with C# 8. Oh, the bot's not running. So, sorry, Magnus.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hey, thanks. Ava2Age Joe? Average Joe. Got it. That 2's an R. Very nice. Thank you for following. I specification, so of T, and this is going to be a base specification of T. And the reason we have to do this, if we want to do it this way, no, we want the cache key. Alright, you know what? I'm going to put it down in the, we're going to put it in the implementation. Sorry, guys. We're just going to do it like that, because we have to. does that work? Does that override that? I think it does. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Magnus, you wouldn't even have the fail emote, though. You have the hype one. You can celebrate my successes. He's your good friend. You celebrate the successes, man. That's what we're doing. That's what we're all about. Oh, cool. Encountered an error. Fun. Okay, so that's our cache key, and if I jump to this, it goes here, but really the implementation is this one, and that is grab the type name and put in the criteria as a string, and I think that will work. Except it's not actually going to put in the values. Okay, I know I've solved this problem before. I will figure that one out later, but for now, it should sort of work as is. That's what gets complicated when you do the caching of these ones, is that you actually have to get it based on the specification, so you need the specification to tell you what its string is. So actually here, instead of doing criteria, because we currently only have the data item one, we could just ask it what its what the status is that it's using. So we pass that in. Data status item equals data status item. Yeah. So that's fair. That's fair. You don't have to celebrate that. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to go back to our cache repository. I'm not going to worry about that cache key just yet because it's a big pain in the rear, and I don't want to mess with it. But I do want to add in our cache layer because I need to go figure out that one, and I'm going to do that off stream because that's going to take some reading because I forget exactly how that works. So I'm going to make this, and then I want to make a derived version. So this is going to be our in-memory cache layer. Don't mind the fact that that is just going to be in memory for now. And if you can't figure out what I mean by in memory, I am planning on just storing this in a dictionary for now, because that's what in memory means to me. So we're going to say private dictionary with a string data item. Internal, we'll just call it the cache. Underscore cache equals new dictionary of that. By the way, there's actually a cool thing that many of you might not know, which is a horrible thing about dictionaries. That I'll show you in a minute. So if it contains that key, then we want to return it. And we're going to use our cache key to get it and send it back. And if not, then we are going to return null, because that's what we expected back in the beginning. So the horrible thing I wanted to tell you guys about, I think pretty much all of you are aware of the object initializer and the collection initializer, which were two features added into C# 3. So they've been in here forever. That's, the idea that I could just say, a new data item, right? So I could say new data item, and then I could pass in the properties, right? So I could do, well, I can't because they're private, but you know that I can do the curly braces and object initialize that thing, and I can also do it for collections. So if I wanted to do a new list of string, I can just start putting in my collections, right? That is the collection initializer. What's neat that you might not know about is that they actually added one in for dictionaries recently. I forget if it was 6 or 7. I think it was C#7, but it might have been C#6. You can actually use the dictionary initializer like this. So, and that is way nicer than doing it with a collection initializer, because before you had to do a collection initializer. So this is the dictionary initializer, which is kind of cool. The old collection initializer way would have been like this. Instead of doing that, it would be a new, whoops. You would do, what, it'd be new, no, it would be one of these, yeah. So it looked like this, which is not hugely different, but one of these is very clearly a dictionary, and that's clearly a key, and the other one is not, because it's just initializing it based on a collection. Yeah, so you were just doing key value pair like that, so I like the new syntax for that, but there's some weirdness with it that I'm not going to get into, but more of the story, be careful with it, but maybe I could say that about everything. Okay. So our caching layer is stupid simple right now. We're basically just calling out to this thing and saying, hey, shove this in the dictionary if you don't have it yet. Or, well, pull this from the dictionary if you don't have it yet. Let's go and add our other piece, which is insert, into the dictionary. So we added that here. So void insert data item string, and that'll be cache key. So now our in-memory one needs this. Hey, lion stole my bike. Hello, welcome. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to shove this into the cache. And actually, I don't think I care whether it's in there already or not. Since this is just an in-memory cache that is a dictionary, we're just going to put it in here like this. Now, I know this code is stupid simple, guys, for anybody that's just showing up. This is in here only because we're doing an example of how we would put this in as a caching layer. It doesn't matter what our caching layer is. We could, for example, if we were in a web app, be using the standard built-in web caching that is in ASP.NET. But this is just to give us a quick example, because we're trying to show the decorator pattern that we would use here. So this cached repository is implemented using the decorator pattern. Now our try get is returning a data item, public, and what's it complaining about? Change type of local item to... Oh! Right! Because we didn't tell it the type. So I'm actually going to make that a try get of t. And actually I'm going to do the same thing on insert. I just read the info at the bottom. Is this part of one of your 2 projects, or just showing code? So we're actually in the dev chatter bot right now, Lion Stole My Bike. And so this is one of the 2 projects. We are just putting in a little caching layer here, which I think could be useful because some of the data that we might want to access may not be coming from our local storage. It might be coming somewhere else, or we could be accessing a database. So there could be use in keeping data in memory for one reason or another. Even if it's just, you know, file system, we might want to cache something. So I figured I'd show this because we could put it in here and it'd be pretty easy. So I want to add t to this, and we're going to put a t on there as well, and we're going to return back t, and we're going to accept t. And our dictionary says it's data items, and the way we're going to make that work, where t is a data item. So as long as we put that restriction on there, our dictionary should still work. Yes, our stuff is on... You know, I really should have kept the previous version of this running here, guys. I apologize for that, Janisku. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to go run an instance of this bot so that it will respond to those commands you guys are doing. Give me 1 second and I'll have it running. Dev chatterbot, where is it? It's after core and right there. Okay, bot should be running again, guys, so it should work. Yep, bot's on now, so yep, C#, good stuff. So I will go ahead and type in the command, which, oh, nope, Lion stole my bike, you got to it, there it is. So there's a link to GitHub, so you can take a look at the stuff on there. We are regularly adding to it, and it's still in the pretty early stages. So feel free to send pull requests, anything you guys want to add in, and even if it doesn't get pulled in, we'll at least talk about it on stream, and probably say why we're not pulling it in. But if we are putting it in, that would be cool too. So the couple of things I need to do, I need to put in this little T restriction here. And now the reason I'm putting these on the type is because I want to have the same cache layer work everywhere. I don't want to have to add in a new caching layer for any given type that I might need to return. So that just seems silly to make new objects for every different type. Okay. Cache key. Oh, I need to cast this as a T. Okay, so now what's interesting about this is because we used null as our return value, if you try to access a key that had an object that was of a different type, it's going to return it back. And because I did the as T, it's going to be null, so that actually works nicely. I like the way that that happened, sort of by accident, actually. Right, the bot's running. So that works. Now I'm going to jump back to where we called it, which is going to be here in our cached repository. And what I'm going to do is make a slight adjustment. So what Magnus pointed out when I typed this, hey, welcome, thanks for following, Lion. So rightfully so, Magnus pointed out when I was writing this to insert this in here, but because of stream delay, I'd actually already typed this line by the time I saw the message that I should add it. So what I want to do instead is I want to make it so that when you try to get it, it has a failover. So that's the neat thing I want to do. So actually, I had been asked by Flozik, who I don't know if you're still in here. If you are, then I'm about to show you how the decorator pattern works by changing our repository setup at the beginning. Where was I going? I'm in here, but I actually don't want to be there. I want to be in here. So instead of actually setting up an IOC container, which I clearly could have done, and actually sometime on my stream I want to do a write our own IOC container just so I can demystify it a little bit, because I know a lot of people that are scared of IOC containers because they do all kinds of crazy magic. But they really don't do as much magic as you think they do. Actually, we passed that in, so I was where I wanted to be. But anyway, so it's kind of fun. They're actually easy to write. You can make one in like 10 minutes. So anyway, let's go ahead and add this. So I created this repository, which is an EF generic repository. And this actually could have just been an I repository. It did not need to really be that type. Now the reason I say that is because I am going to make a new cached repository. And I'm going to pass in this other repository as my parameter for it. There is no argument given cache layer. Right, I do need to give it a cache layer. So we're going to give it a new in-memory cache. So what's neat about this is, yeah, so IOC containers are basically like gods that are just creating things for us. So, you know, if creation is the realm of, you know, a god, then it makes sense that that would be what that is. But no, it does seem like magic to a lot of people. So that is part of why I want to do that. So, all right, we have now I'm actually going to kill the bot again, because instead of copying out the DLLs and running it elsewhere, I stupidly just ran the one that is in this. So, okay. So this is the decorator pattern in its simplest form. Essentially, I have an iRepository, which actually has a crappy name here. We're just going to call that our repository. And that is decorated like this. So I essentially have created two layers, one of them wrapped around the other layer, and that is what is decorating. So my caching layer is decorating my EF layer. Yeah, I was thinking I could just do a release build and run that one, or I could actually set this up with some kind of an actual deployment that would also be nice. But I'm not going to do it at the moment, because the bot doesn't need to be running right this second. So, that's the basic concept, is one essentially just takes in the other and does its job with it. So, what we could do now, if we wanted to add another piece, would be to set up logging, for example. So, if we wanted to be able to have our own logging, and I'm not going to build this one right this second, but I could do another layer around this one that was a logging layer. So I could say logging repo, and inside this one take in the caching repo, and then inside of that one take in the generic repo. So essentially what would happen is I would have these layers built up where one takes in the other takes in the other, and since each one really is just depending on having an iRepository, you can resort them in whatever order you need and any structure you need. So the advantage is at runtime I could decide that, oh, you know what? I need to connect this piece and this piece and this piece, and it can put them together and run. So if I turn logging off completely, I could have it set up one way, or if I need to build it so that, hey, I've got, multiple bots, one of them logs itself, the other one doesn't, we could set it up that way. Or we could set it up so that, one has caching, one doesn't, or, we can easily enable and disable it, and it works pretty nicely. Actually, Lion, I can jump in and cover that concept. So the idea with an IOC container is, and you may have heard of it like a service locator, that concept is the same thing. So this iRepository, so I needed this inside of my my main bot class. So that's required in the constructor. I take in this repository, which actually I'm going to rename that to repository. So that's used here by the bot. And so when the bot requests this, if I were using an IOC container, I could just tell my IOC container, hey, I want a new instance of a bot. And not only will it get me this bot object, but it will do one other thing. It will go and grab me the repository I need. It will grab me the command handler, the subscriber handler, and the follower handler. It'll basically go and get these dependencies that I've got automatically, because it'll know based on the type what is needed. And so that's sort of how an IOC container works. You configure it in advance with when certain types are requested, what objects should I give them, and how should I create them. And that's basically what an IOC container is. As I said, we are going to build one on stream someday, so if you want to make sure that you don't miss that, the best way to do that is to hit the follow button, and we will get to that at some point. Okay, so jumping out here, since that cache repository is not done, I'm actually not going to wire it up right now, because I don't want to use it in-memory cache, and I didn't wire up the cache keys correctly yet, because what I want to do is, yeah, appreciate it, Lion. What I want to do is I want to make it so that our lambda expression, and I didn't actually show you guys that, so I'm going to. Here's why our cache key is complicated. So for this cache key, what I said was, the way that we implement it is we want to do the name of the type. So in this case, we might say a simple response command, which I think is what I called it, is the type, and then we want the criteria used to get it. So the criteria I want to list is actually, I want to say this as a string, and I want to get this value. So I want to be able to say that our criteria was data item status equals data item status.active. So the generated key that I want to get, and I'll show you what it is. Essentially, we would want to have it look like this. Example, simple that, and then, hang on. We want this to be the key. Ideally, it would just be, yeah, it would be x equals that, and then for this, we would want to have the actual item. And I know it's possible because I've done it before in other projects. So this is the cache key string we would want to create right here. So that is a beast of a cache key, but what it does is this. It makes it so that we can then also have this cached as a separate thing. Or if we use this and said ID equals, you know, well, it's a GUID, but I'm just going to do, you know, 42, for example. So we want it to work like this. So those would be examples of cache keys. So that's the concept. It is totally possible. The complexity of it gets a little crazy sometimes, but I've done it before, so I know we can do it. So that's what we want to build, and it should be fun. So I'm not going to actually make that one be enabled just yet, because it's not really there yet. Okay, close that, close that. It is hilarious that those still work that way. So the other thing that I wanted to do, let's see, quick question. .NET Core has its own DIN. Why would you write one? So you're absolutely correct. Dependency injection is now a first-class citizen inside of .NET Core, so you don't actually need to write your own dependency injection framework. The reason that I would do one, Pac-Man Jr., is that it is more of an academic exercise. And part of the reason is the exact question that was asked in chat a little bit ago, which is wanting a description of how an IOC container works or how dependency injection works. To a lot of developers, it's like magic, so when they see it happening, it's usually confusing. And so by writing our own, we can show people that it's actually simpler than they think it is. I think a lot of developers, I mean, myself included, there are many things in software that I don't know how they work, and so when I see them, it's like, whoa, that looks like magic, that's scary. But once you build your own, you see, oh, it's not magic, I understand how that works, so I know what this is doing. Even though the way that the DI that's built into .NET Core is going to be, clearly much more advanced than the one that we're going to build in 10 minutes on a stream, it at least lets you see how it works. So, if that makes sense. I mean, it's the same reason why, like, whenever we're learning something, you often, like, build the simple case, and then you're like, oh, I understand how that works. Like, I know basically how a rocket works, and, I've built model rockets and launched them, but, clearly what SpaceX is doing is slightly more advanced. But at least I know the concept of, push stuff out that end, go that way. So, yep, that would be the only reason. Not that there's any reason for us to run it and use it. But yes, you're right. .NET Core built in its own, and we really appreciate that they finally got around to doing that. Okay, other things that we want to work on here. Got any votes in chat, guys? Anybody got any specific things you want us to jump on in here? So we did that little detour to look at the decorator pattern and add in our caching layer a little bit. As I mentioned, I'm going to continue that off stream, but anything I do that's interesting off stream, I will mention at the beginning of a video. And if you did miss the beginning of a video, you can usually just watch, because Twitch will save this video, so you can take a look at that in the videos section and you know, be able to catch up on anything you missed. Okay. Let's see. Sure makes sense. I sometimes forget about new people. Seems like I've been using DI. Yeah. So, Pac-Man Jr., I sit in the same boat. I have been using DI since 2006-ish, I think, is when I first started using it. So, that's what, like 12 years-ish is when I probably started using DI. But the funny thing is, even when I do stuff that's like beginner level, everybody's always like, "Oh wait, why are you doing beginner level stuff?" And I'm like, "You must realize that we always have we have new beginners all the time, as there's constantly new people entering in, and people changing how they're writing code. So there are so many of us developers out there that there are people at all levels. So we usually run about 2 hours. Lion stole my bike. And usually on Saturdays we start at 2, but I started at 12:30 today, so we're probably not going to run much later. But yeah, usually about 2 hours is how long one of these are. And in terms of the schedule, I mostly like to stick to what is on there. I have missed one or two, like a week or two ago I was sick, had a bad cough, and couldn't really speak, and so that knocked out some. But usually if I miss one, I try to do a makeup one. So for example, I was not able to, due to a scheduling conflict, do Thursday's stream, so I did it on Friday instead. So yep, that's the idea. And since I don't see any recommendations, I might wrap here if you guys don't have any recommendations for stuff you want to work on. But if you do, shout it out now, and we can still take a look at some things. I do like the idea of doing a shout out to a random other streamer that we like, which actually, now that I think about it, we could do this. Here's my suggestion. Tell me what you guys think about this. So we want to be able to do a shout out. So let me show you how the command works right now. Yes. When I mention exactly, this is a place where you can talk about all kinds of interesting code stuff. We were discussing intermediate language in C# earlier, Lion. So we are all the nerds that you like. We are the other people that you can talk code to without eyes glazing over. So, for example, we really like C# Fritz. He's a friend of mine. I actually worked with him for a number of years, but I actually knew him a while before I started working with him. He's at Microsoft now. I worked with him at Telerik for a few years. He and I would always hang out at the Microsoft MVP Summit, which actually just ended. I did not attend this year, which I kind of wish I had. But anyway, so that's a shout-out command. He's a good dude, so I'd recommend you guys also follow him and watch his streams. I think he streams Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, if I'm remembering right. So that's our shout-out command. That was actually triggered by our bot. But then additionally, I want to point out this one. So oh, that's funny. You guys didn't even get to see that. Didn't we fix that? I swear we fixed that. Oh, guys, that's embarrassing. Did we not fix this? We said, hang on. Oh. Yeah, so, Yeah, so you do want to mention someone on there. Lion stole my bike. You want to mention the next name. So essentially, you want to say who you want to do the shout out to. So that's the second parameter.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hey, thanks for following, Pac-Man Jr. Much appreciated. So we can do this. We can say SO to dev chatter, and we can actually say,
What a lovely day!
hey, Dark Tower Builder, thank you for following. We can also include the @ symbol at the beginning, and it should still work just fine. And yeah, you can go to any name, whether it exists or not, and it will link it right now. We're not validating this. But what we want to be able to do is not pass anything. So right here, notice we didn't pass anything. It's just going to send you to Twitch right now. But the suggestion that someone had that I thought was a cool idea is instead of having the empty case do nothing, because we could just tell it, hey, don't print a message when you didn't pass in a parameter to the SO command, which is shoutout, by the way. We're thinking that we want to choose randomly from a collection of streamers we like. And I had a cool idea for a set of streamers that we like. What I was thinking is we could go to, and I'm going to paste a URL here, we could go to any channel that the dev chatter channel is following. And so that is a pre-approved list. Because it's who am I following on that account. And so if we grab that set of who we're following, we could use that. So awesome. I'm glad you guys like the idea. Okay, so the question is whether the API already includes that, which I think it may. So I am going to say Twitch API and go take a look. I'm going to toss it on screen so you guys can see the Twitch API, because we're going to dig into this one together, because I don't know where it is, but I am betting it exists in here. Now, we're not going to call it directly. Hey, thanks, Pac-Man Jr. I am glad you guys are involved and like the stream. So much appreciated. That'll jump you up to the top of the bits ladder. Yeah, so, and also, as Lion Stole My Bike pointed out, feel free to add each other as friends on Twitch, which has a nice added benefit, that you get to see what each other are watching. So if someone is watching another stream, then that lets you see what other streams you should check out. Magnus, just so you know, you didn't actually print anything. I'm not really running code on that. Good try, though. Good try. That would be awesome. But you are getting me scared to leaving this running. So I approve. Well done. Next, Magnus is going to start whispering commands to the bot for a while. Yeah. That's nice. I like it. Okay. Let's see. So we actually, I want to jump over to docs. Actually, glossary. Yeah. So we're a very interactive stream, guys. So if there's something that you want to, if there's something you guys want to see us do, we can take a look at any of this. A type of relationship between a user and a channel. How do I get the followers? TwitchLib. I'm going to open up TwitchLib and take a look for followers. I'm going to see if they already have it implemented. Channel followers. There it is. So the README mentions it. Followers. Not the follower service. Okay, so on the Twitch API, channels, channel ID. That is the followers of a channel, not who a channel follows. User follows, get user follows. Might be this one. I used to watch Twitch quite a bit, but it's been a while. Definitely back after finding this. Yeah, I'm glad Lion stole my bike. I actually watch a lot of gaming streams on Twitch also, so that's why I like that dev stuff can now be on here. Yeah, so I might do that, Janiscu. I can probably check with the API, and I might look to see. I might check the channel to see if it has many followers. So that should be good. I may have to check that out, Pac-Man Jr., because we are doing some of that, and I was actually thinking about having a Twitch extension for some of the things that we want to do, because as far as I know, there aren't any just general extensions, and I often feel limited by things like the panels on Twitch. So I'm going to grab this. So we already have the API set up. I'm going to commit what we've got, and then I'm going to hack this piece in there.
What a lovely day!
So hang on one second, guys. So thank you for following. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to look at who that was. Yeah. I'm going to give your name a shot. Hive. And I apologize if I didn't get that one right. But just let me know in chat how close I was on that pronunciation, and I will try to fix it for next time if I did mess it up. Whenever I get names, I'm like trying to guess what language it might come from, and so I can get a guess on how to pronounce the name. Okay, so Tuesday, 4 p.m. PST, that'll be 7 on my time. And it'll be on the Twitch dev channel. Sounds good. I will probably take a look at that. So you're saying that we should say SO Twitch dev. So it'd be that one. Okay, so we wanted to push this in here, and I was going to do it directly into Twitch. So one thing I do want to point out, guys, is I like keeping our dependencies separate, so that's actually why I have a full library just for the Twitch connection, and probably if we do a mixer, I'll have a separate library for that one. That way, the only class that has a direct dependency on TwitchLib is the only project that has a direct dependency on TwitchLib is this one. So I have my Twitch API here, and actually, let's, so we have our SO command. So I'm thinking I just want to hard code this in here right now. So I might just do that. Right after we connect. That is hilarious that I have this here and I didn't do that there. That was weird that I did it that way. Yeah, see, I still have some code that's just kind of sitting around and isn't always in the best of places. But, I mean, some of that comes from just, you know, we are sort of hacking things together right now and just making it work. Underscore Twitch API users that. Get user follows async. Okay. What is on this type, I wonder? Twitch can be user channel. Follows. As a user follow. First. I just want to see what's on this. Channel created at notification. Cool. Even has the created at, so we know when you followed. Yes, so actually, yeah, so in C#8 you can await in a constructor. And also, is it C# 7.1 or 7.2 when you can have an async main method? It's one of those two, which is also kind of cool. And I love how you called him by his actual name, Null Pointer. 7.1, thank you, Fossils. Okay, so I was just going to hack this together, and but I'm realizing that I might want to actually do that in our SO command. So let's go ahead and actually put that in. You know what? Let's just wire it up, guys. Yeah, in C#, you know, we don't like null references. Okay, so the command we want to mess with is the SO one. And we got kind of complicated here with this, but I'm worried about getting much more complicated because at this point we need to access the Twitch API as well. So that accesses the event arguments. But I really feel like yeah, bits are actually not all that new, but yeah, I mean, if you were a Twitch viewer long ago, you haven't seen them, and that makes a lot of sense. Null Pointer. I do know a lot of people that are C++ developers that also work with C#. Actually, a good friend of mine that actually lives kind of close to here, even. Was a C++ dev forever, and always loved C# and would always talk to me about it, and then started getting to do it at work, so he was thrilled. He gets to do both at his work, C++ and C#, so it's nice. Okay, so what I'm wondering here is, whoops, didn't mean to do that, whether we should add an additional piece here for, like, extra work. So we can easily do something like grab an argument off of an object, and I'm not sure how we're going to get this in here once we make this actually be data, but this piece, I'm not sure what we're going to do. So each one is an individual parameter, and they need to pull that. So I wonder how we get an argument to this. Yes, now that .NET can actually run on more than just Windows, it becomes a lot easier to make the case for using .NET instead of Java. So you are correct, Null Pointer. This could spell trouble for Java as a platform. We'll see how it goes. So I know a lot of people that are now running C# on Linux that were not before, because Mono just wasn't enough for a lot of people. So now, you know, that .NET Core is really running everywhere, and you can even write the code if you use VS Code. So that has a lot of nice benefits, so we'll see. Okay, so we want to pass in this value, but man, the thing that's killing me about this is I want to do it like this, but I really want to pass in a, you know, I'm just going to call it foo for now. And no, we need to receive a value. I'm going to call this API, and I'm going to say API dot something. We're going to say this. Oh, I meant follows first. Channel name. Okay, let's see. What'd you guys say? Yep, it's going to be awesome. With industry developing, I've used for Java and Android, would rather not. Yeah, so I also have to write in Java for Android. That's where I usually do it. Xamarin for Android and iOS. Yeah, so I have tried to use Xamarin before, but I ran into a little bit of problems with that. And null pointer, that makes sense if you're in the financial industry. That's one spot where you'd have to use C++. One of the guys I know that uses C++ writes medical imaging software, so they have machines that run it. I know another guy that uses C++ for Lockheed Martin, so he's programming stuff on their fighters, so he needs it for that. And I know another guy that uses it and does their simulator, so they all have to do C++. And yeah, open source is not part of government because they're too afraid of things. Hey, Windows Forms really is not that bad, to be honest. It gets a bad rap. It is nice and quick and easy. So if you just want to make something happen, it's a good choice. Hey, look, it works. I apologize about you getting timed out there. Okay, so what did it do? Our company switched to Xamarin.Forms. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry guys. They're really not very good at figuring that stuff out. Yeah, that is not our bot, that is actually the, yeah, you'll run into that in almost all the dev streams, is the bots can't figure out that some things aren't links, like ASP.NET, for example. Oh, hey, it didn't flag that one. Lion didn't get booted for that. Congrats to you, buddy. Yeah, so if you use WinForms, I do recommend looking at WPF and Universal Windows Platform, whatever they call it, UWP, Universal Windows Apps. They're actually not that bad. They're both quite nice. Yeah, so Windows Forms is definitely legacy at this point. It's no one's saying yes, go out and build your app in WinForms, but I'm also pointing out that we shouldn't bash all these things as much as we do. Oh, sorry, Magnus. Yeah. So I will tell you guys about the mistake I made a bunch of years ago, because it's fun, and I like you guys. So I made a mistake many years ago, and what I did was I started writing a book with some other authors, and our chosen technology was one that we actually thought was really cool at the time. You may have heard of it. It was called Silverlight. And I think you guys can guess where I'm going with this one. So it was actually right out the gate, before Silverlight was going anywhere, we were working on a book for that. And I actually wrote a chapter on making games in Silverlight, which was actually really fun. So we were going to have one chapter where in that chapter you built a simple game using Silverlight, and essentially we just used sprites and did a basic game. It was pretty fun and easy. And one of the other authors wrote the introductory chapter. There were 3 of us, and then that's all that ever got written. And we all abandoned the book. So I think it was probably a good idea, especially considering the current state of Silverlight. It didn't really go anywhere, but what are you going to do? There were some cool things about it. And the question of whether or not WPF is legacy, WPF is actually the current way to build an application for Windows. And as MadCoder1 pointed out, Windows Forms is actually still a very good way to write code for Windows. So they made the Universal Windows concept. So there's that new Build a Windows app, and that's that's the Metro style app, except with current versions of Windows. You know, it can be a windowed application. It doesn't have to live just on that old start screen that we had. And so that's why we actually have a number of different ways of building our apps. I think right now, from Microsoft, the answer for what you should be building your app in, most of the time is actually still WPF would be my main answer. Now, if you want it to run somewhere that's not, forget WPF, invest in a web app and web. Okay, so that is the other thing, is that also a lot of apps are just going towards the web. So I will tell you, actually, one of our apps that we're writing in this channel, I don't know if I mentioned it to you guys, we have a WinForms app we're writing in here. Our system tray app I did as WinForms because I'm like, I'm not putting a UI on it. I don't care. I'm going to get rid of our form in our WinForms app. So there's no form. We just run as a system tray icon, and everything's just out of a little menu that pops up. So I had no reason to use WPF. It doesn't really buy me anything. It's just going to load slower. Let's see. Is this mission critical? All the ATM and banking software needs to be... Yeah. And Windows Forms is still great. Yep. So the idea, past for the future, without going through the past, we would get to where we are today. Yep. C++ is still everywhere. You wouldn't believe all the places it really is. And yeah, so WinForms is very good if you don't need to do a lot of customization. If you don't really care what your app looks like and you just want to throw some buttons on there and do some work, it's pretty good for that. And let's see. Yeah, so I love MVVM and all the data binding that you get out of WPF, which is why if you're doing anything complicated, you should be doing WPF. I forget which version of Visual Studio, but a while back, the one that did the significant change was actually when Microsoft switched Visual Studio over to running as a WPF app. So most of what I do is ASP.NET Core, which I think is probably the case for a lot of you that are on here. So I think it's pretty common. I don't know if you guys are using Razor Pages, but if you're not, you should be. They have really fixed up a lot of what we were doing. And yes, Greendolf, I agree completely. I wish we could use WPF apps on Linux because I'm a big fan of WPF. If we could get that working, say like a .NET Core WPF app that ran on Windows and Linux, I would be just through the roof happy. So I don't want to say if they get us to that point, I want to say once they get us to that point because we know they're working on it. So, yep. And Magnus, I actually used to be a C++ dev also, as I think many of us were. Yeah, Greendolf, that is the dream, man. Okay, so I don't know what our unknown thing is yet. I want to start wiring this up, though. So I'm going to jump back into this so that we're not just sitting around talking, although I love chatting with you guys. I think a lot of people are here for us to write some code. So now I wrote this as a func of string, but I'm thinking that this needs to be an API call. So I'm going to call it an API call, and I don't know if we can pass that in. I'm not sure what we can do that makes this work. Yeah, so the funny thing is you guys are talking about the C++ standard changing. There's actually something that's on the docket for C++ that I really want, that I'm excited for.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hey, welcome MadCoder1, thank you for following. So I'm going to toss this up on screen for a sec, just because it's kind of interesting. So we're talking about programming languages, so I don't mind detouring a little bit. Finding a flexible system for supporting a wide range of OS. Yeah, so that is awesome, Fossils. I'm actually a huge fan of all the stuff that is going on in our industry right now. We are making strides towards being able to use our languages all in one place, and it's really good. Okay, so the thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is this idea here. So, and actually, I was going to ask Null Pointer if you know if you pay attention to any of the C++ changes that are coming down the pipe. So, I believe this is slated to be added to C++ at some point. I'm not sure when it's actually going to show up. Published as tank spec from 2015. So let's see, where did they say it? Okay. Form of concept was proposed in conclusion C++ 11. Temporarily accepted but removed in 2009. Where is it? Ah, here it is. Was merged into the C++ 20 draft. Yeah, see, Null Pointer, that was actually a problem in C# for a while also, until NuGet eventually came around. So until we got that, it wasn't really that great. So concepts is supposed to end up in C++ 20, which we'll see what happens with that. I don't actually know. I don't keep track enough of C++ changes, but the basic concept of concepts is it's kind of like defining an interface in C#, except that something can match your interface without actually being your type. So the idea is that you want to be able to say, hey, this matches my interface, even though it's not implementing it. AonX 2303, thank you for following. So that's the basic idea, is you want to be able to have it match the interface. Now here's why. I want to make an interface right here, and I want to call this like the API interface, where this is something that gives me back my might have a certain property. So I want to say I have an interface. My interface has XYZ property on it, and this other class has a property XYZ. And that's sort of what we want to do, is be able to say, even though it doesn't implement my interface, I still want to accept it. So it's almost like a formalized duck typing, and that's getting added into C++, and I'd really like to see the same concept in C#. So, I'm going to yank this out right now, because I'm not sure how to make this. I'm not sure how to pull this in just yet. So I'm gonna pull this out of here. Okay. So jumping onto this, here's the problem. I want to, and maybe you guys can help me figure this one out. I want to get one of these channel names. I'm actually going to do this once we've connected. Twitch client connected. So send a message, channel name. Oops. So we're going to say channel name. channel name, assuming I can type. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run that. What we can actually do is I can set up... yeah, it is basically duck typing. I can set up the chat channels in here, and if people want to have alternate discussions, I will do that. But not right this second. So the idea is, so with a dynamic type, you just attempt to use the properties on it, but there's no guarantee that the property is actually there, Greendolf. So if someone gave you an object at runtime and it didn't match the one you wanted, that would actually cause a problem. But with if we actually have I like to call it like an auto-implementing interface, which is essentially kind of like having, structured duck typing. The object would be guaranteed to actually have the properties that you expect. So it really does have them, because you could even do a compile time check that it has them. And yes, the idea is if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it's a duck, which basically means, does it have my quack method? Okay, I want to treat it like a duck. I don't care whether or not, it admits to the fact that it's a duck. I just want to use it. And yes, I will set up a Discord for dev chatter. Okay, so before I do that though, let's go ahead and see if this works. I think I built that. I'm going to run the bot and see if it spits out the message or throws an exception. And it threw an exception. Yeah, and I will add a Discord command so that you can find it, Greendolf. Okay, so your client ID was not set. Okay, but I did set it. Alright, well, I will dig into that one in a bit. Yeah, no, we don't have it yet. Oh, did I use it? Oh, you might be right. Did I use the wrong one? V5. Good call. Good call. Still errored out on that one, but it looks like the error is different. Maybe it's the same error. Expecting a user ID. Refresh token. Client ID was invalid or set. Yeah, no, I still need to get that connection right. So there is still a problem there. Yeah, we all suffer from imposter syndrome. So I would just say don't worry about it. We're all devs here. We all do good stuff. Hang on, guys. I'm gonna make you a thing. You're gonna be thrilled. We're gonna make this one. It is gonna be in US East. Sorry, guys, I'm in US East. Okay, dev chatter, US East, this exists, and we have a text channel. So, let me quickly make an invite for you guys. Create one that never expires. Can I create my own? I don't know. Either way, I'm going to post it into chat here, guys. Yeah, why not, Magnus? Boom, it exists. Done. That wasn't hard. Plus I get to go do this, and this is not distracting from the channel. I get to go make the Discord command. And it's gonna link it. Done. Hey, check out our Discord here. Is that you guys joining the Discord? Is that why I'm hearing beeps? Am I even logged into Discord? I don't think I am. Oh, actually I am. That's funny. Yep, there, you guys are all joining. Hey, welcome. That was fun. Hilarious. There you go, guys. So, hop over into that Discord if you like, and you can chat with everybody else. It'll be a good time. I will actually configure it later. Let's go ahead and make that work. So, let's run this and test out the command. Because, hey, that's what we're doing, is building a bot. And I need to turn off the other thing so it stops breaking. Twitch chat client. So we need to complete our thing here, which is this. We're going to turn that off for now. Okay, so now I can say Discord, and hey, the bot then responds with that. So now anybody can just go in and ask the bot whenever they want to go and let them know what the Discord link is. However, I do actually need to cut out a little bit early, so this is around the time I was going to end the stream anyway. I normally run for about 2 hours, which would have me ending at 4 o'clock on a Saturday, because we start at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. It is currently 3:40. And but today we started early, so that's probably a good time to stop. Do you guys have anything you want me to look at or show before we wrap up the stream today? No problem, Lion. I want to thank all you guys for showing up and talking and having a good time. Ace Flameseer, you had asked me. I just noticed you're in chat. I apologize for calling you out being in chat, but you had asked me something yesterday, and I know I answered whatever it was you asked about. Thanks, Magnus. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And by the way, I will let you know as soon as Twitch approves our emotes, because I know you are a subscriber, and you will be able to have a nice hype emote. Actually, what I had them do was so our hype emote's a little T-Rex, and actually I'm going to toss it up on stream so you guys can see it. You'll get to see what our emote's going to look like. Because I can show it to you real quickly, because I already know it's made. So it will look like this guy. So our emote is a little T-Rex that can't reach anything. So he holds up a little sign, a little hype sign, using his little grabbers, that little extendo arms that he can use. So that's what subscribers to the channel get to use, assuming that Twitch approves them. I don't know why it wouldn't approve this one, but that's our little hype emote. And the other ones we're going to have, which I will toss up on screen so you can see, we're going to have a derp emote, which is, for whenever I do something stupid and forget something and my stuff's not compiling. Or if I do something really stupid, you can use the fail one. So that's what we've got. Hey, Noel Pointer, thank you for following. Hope to see you at the next stream. So anybody else, go ahead and click the follow button if you want to make sure you catch our next stream. The next one will be on Monday. It'll be sometime around the same time this one started, so usually starts around 2 o'clock. Sometimes a little late, sometimes I'm a little early, but that's basically when we're going to start. Yeah, the hype emote will be good. So as I said, anybody that subscribes to the channel will be able to get that. If you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you actually do get a free Twitch Prime account as being an Amazon Prime. So if you want to toss that my way, cool. If you want to toss it to somebody else, that's cool too. there are a bunch of people that would be awesome. But yeah, so at some point I'm hoping we can get to the point where we are a Twitch partner so that I can just put all those emotes at tier 1, because I'm a big fan of the set that we've got and the artist that's making them. So, sorry, AonX230, I'm not sure where you are, but yeah, based on your saying get up early, I don't know your schedule, but yeah, we should have some good stuff in here. So once those emotes are there, we'll have fun with them. We'll probably have the bot respond to them. Oh, New Zealand, yeah, that's so I'm gonna be streaming at probably some weird times for you, I'm sure. But hey, you probably get nicer weather than I do most of the time. I'm in northeastern Ohio, so I get lake effect snow, and actually it was apparently warm enough today. I'm looking outside. When we started this stream, it was actually all white out there, and I can now see the grass, so all of our snow has melted. It's apparently warm. Who knew? I'm inside. So, yeah, 9:40. Yeah, so I started, 3 hours ago? So, that's pretty good. Yeah, you go into the northern central part of the U.S. and you have mass amounts of snow. And yes, southern hemisphere, it's still summerish. So, cool. Well, anyway, I'm glad everybody stopped by. I want to thank C# Fritz because he hosted us today. So that was really nice. I want to thank all you guys for being here and following and chatting away. That was really awesome. And I also want to thank Pac-Man Jr. for cheering today. So thank you for the bits. They will be used mostly to go back into the stream once ever Twitch actually sends me anything for that. Because things like improving mic, other things, and whatever else we can do, and that's money would go towards stuff like emotes and things like that, which right now is just coming out of my pocket, but it's still pretty good. I have an artist that's doing those emotes, and he has ideas for other ones that we want to do. So if we do ever get to the point where we're a Twitch partner and can get more than 3 emotes, we will start adding those as well, which will be awesome. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out I think the bot's running. We have our stuff is up on GitHub. I'll be pushing up this commit once we're done here. And yeah, so at some point, if people want to do that does work, Lion. The best suggestion I would actually make is Twitch subscriptions, because then you actually get access to an emote, which is more fun. I'm not trying to make money off this. Sure, if I could stream more often, that'd be cool, but this isn't like a day job. I'm not doing it for the money. I have fun with this. So kind of like how you guys are like, hey, this is awesome. I can chat with a bunch of nerds. Hey, that's what I get to do. I get to chat with a bunch of people that love programming and C# and other stuff like that, which is really cool. So yeah, I have not set up donate links or anything like that, so if people did want to donate to the stream, I will be setting that up at some point, Lion, but those don't exist yet. So bits work for now because it's pretty easy and they're fun, and so do subscriptions. And I actually like the subscription best because it actually gets something for you guys, so it's pretty cool, and sort of builds community. But yeah, that's what we're doing here, and we're not going to be streaming tomorrow, but we will be streaming again on Monday, so I'm hoping all you guys do make it out for that. So you'll be welcome back. It'll be about the same time. And Aeon, just so you know, because you are talking about timing, I am thinking about shifting one of my streams to a different time. So one of my 4 streams a week will be at a different time so that people from other time zones can show up. Hey! Awesome. Thank you, Lion. Appreciate the sub. I hope you do enjoy the emotes. Once they are approved, you will get access to them. I would be amazed if they're not approved by Monday's stream. So you will get to use the hype emote then, which will be really cool. So also, you'll notice you get the nice little star next to your name for people that don't know Twitch. You'll get that on the that on the Twitch chat, which is fun. And at some point, we're probably going to adjust how the bot works, so it does different things with subs versus followers and other things like that. So anyway, as I said, we're wrapping here. Go ahead and check out the code on GitHub if you want to send us a pull request, or you want to point out any issues, or just want to look through the code. It's all out there. I will be pushing this up there. If you are interested in continuing the discussion, this is the Discord link, which our bot now responds to. And yeah, I don't think there's anybody that we're planning on hosting today, so we will just wrap here. And yeah. Oh, I should also thank a couple of other people. The music that we've had on in the background, which I don't know how well you guys can hear it, but that is from relaxdaily.net. There are links down below if you want to find out what we're actually listening to, and it'll be on the ending screen that I'm going to put up here now. So, yeah. So thanks for stopping by, everybody, and I'm glad you all had fun, and we will continue this discussion and coding on Monday. And I will post on Twitter and things like that, which again, there are links down below for where, what we'll be doing and things like that. So if you check that out, you can get announcements. And also if you follow, you'll always get a notification for when we're going live. So you won't miss a stream. So thanks and have a great day, everybody, and happy coding.